Wait a minute. Get it how you live it. It's another Saturday night. Therefore, it's another Saturday night Shoot the Breeze. Well, thank everyone who participated last week on the panel, in the chat. Sorry about that. I could definitely hear my playback coming through there, so no need to drop a one. I heard it myself. With that said, man, thank you guys for showing up last week and making the conversation a good one, even though we were short-handed of a few regulars. Good conversation last week. Thank you to the guys who made up the numbers in the playback and left comments under the video. Just a reminder, you too can have your topics discussed. Just join the Discord. The link is in the description. Navigate to the Shoot the Breeze topics channel. Drop a topic. Make it succinct. Don't make it a long-winded thing where I don't even know what you're talking about. And add an attachment, preferably to YouTube, but X is fine as well, and Instagram. And as of late, TikTok is fine as well. You know what it is. I'd like to come on here real quick and let you guys know what we have in store for you tonight. We have a topic returning from last week, the forgotten Black community. We have a video that this guy thinks sHitler is what I call him. sHitler was right. We're gonna look at Plato a little bit tonight. Why crowds choose lies over truth. We're going to look back at a previous Shoot the Breeze commentary where our panelists were speaking on this idea of time being cyclical. I guess some people attacked her perspective and said it was backwards. Is she vindicated now? Hint, hint, wink, wink. Scientists have just come up recently and said time is cyclical. With that said, we're going to look at Halo Braid, the first robotic hair braiding robot. So those are the topics we have for you tonight. Make sure as we start the show officially, make sure that you share the show, give it a thumbs up, hit the like button, and let people know what you're doing on this good Saturday night. What we're going to do now is start the show officially. On the other side, I'll introduce any and all panelists, as well as drop Shoot the Breeze topic number one. Do stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the revolutionary matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Yes, indeed. Make sure that you're tuned into Brother Bakari's BBN Network, the Forecast Radio, Realm in the Bush, Casita Cheek, and last but not least, Kofi, the Black Crick. I haven't seen Kofi do a live in a while. Hope all is well. With that said, man, let me welcome in my first and only panelist tonight. That'll be Buana. Buana, how are you this week?
I'm good. Cool. How are you? How are you this week, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How's I know the weather didn't affect Nassau too tough, but how's everything in general back home?
Everything is good. You have we getting the breeze, we getting some rains, not cloudiness, but nothing serious in Nassau. But in the southern parts of the Bahamas, you get a little bit of rain and flooding, but nothing serious like Jamaica or Cuba.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Jamaica and Cuba. We wish the best for those Africans out there, you know. But thanks for that update there, Buana. Yeah, here in New York, we're kind of, I imagine we're getting kind of the weather y'all are getting now, where it's overcast a lot, off and on rain, and very, very windy right now in New York.
Yes, Coco, you know it's all on the eastern seaboard. So you know, sometimes what we get, Florida will get, and even up to New York, it depends on the strength of the weather, tropical storm or hurricane. But you all really get some of that weather. I didn't know that, but you all actually do get some of that weather.
Yeah, we do. I could almost always tell what the weather is home based on what's going on here. Especially the rainy season, I could tell. Yeah. So anyway, with that said, man, good to know that the home base is fine. I spoke to an aunt of mine and she told me everything was fine in Nassau. So, but you know, we hope for the best for Jamaica and what they're going through. The Bahamas is very familiar with hurricane destruction, and now Cuba is facing it now. So we hope the best for everyone. Buana, if you're ready, man, let's get right into it. Shoot the Breeze topic number one. Shoot the Breeze topic number one says the forgotten Black community. This came with a link that's going to take us to X, and this is an account that I like on X a lot called Typical African. They said Afro-Mexicans are one of the world's most forgotten Black communities. So let me make sure you guys can see my screen. You can. So let me play this. It's pretty short. If I have to, I'll play it twice, just in case people missed it. But we'll watch it and then we'll comment on it.
It's home to more than 1 million Afro-Mexicans. Yet these are marginalized and often forgotten communities. They represent to include Afro-Mexican as an ethnic category. Mexico's legacy of slavery began hundreds of years ago.
The slaves in Mexico were in the places where there was mining. This town was founded around the year 1800, most likely by fugitive slaves who escaped to the coastal regions where they could survive on what they found here.
Today, that original African culture still exists in a state dominated by indigenous tradition. Yet this stretch for Rosa Hernandez, the lead councillor of Santo Domingo Armenta, the Afro-Mexican experience is isolating.
We're a vast minority in this country, so that's why many people have never heard of us. They think we're from another country. They don't consider you to be Mexican simply because you're Black. But we are Mexicans, and it's only fair that they recognize us, that they value us as much as anyone else.
As the Black Lives Matter movement around the world seeks change and equality for Black Mexico, the challenge for these communities is still at the point of showing they exist.
Yeah, very interesting. The idea that
It's home to more than 1 million.
Sorry about that. So many countries have an African population, but you would never know oftentimes. Like, for example, we talk about Egypt and stuff a lot, but we don't see the black folks, the indigenous black folks of Egypt around there. They usually show us these Arabs and stuff. So it's very interesting. China's like that, Japan. Very interesting how there's these black communities that no one really talks about. Buana, what are your thoughts on the forgotten black community?
Well, forgotten by who, first of all? But what I would say is Dr. Runoko Rashidi, when he was alive, he did his best to go around the world and display the images of black people in different parts of the world, especially in places that you wouldn't least expect. And during Dr. Runoko Rashidi's time, he just really had a digital camera, and he used to take the photographs of many of these people and come back and give lectures on it. Now, since the technology has improved, you have a lot of digital nomads going all over the world, and they put these people on camera where they could speak for themselves. You have people like Ace Live, a brother from Florida, Haitian by origin. He goes all over the world, all over the world, and he goes into these same communities and interviews these people all the time. And then you have this guy named Check in Effect, who goes into a lot of these indigenous communities and black communities as well, and allow the people to speak for themselves. So when this person said these are forgotten people, I understand what he kind of means by that. But let me say also, sometimes being forgotten is not always a bad thing, because when you have that westernization coming there heavily, you see the community changes in such a way that I bet you in this community, the older people are looked after by the younger people. There's more cohesiveness within the community, how they treat each other, how they function. Sometimes it's good not to be remembered by some people, because when they come in, they mess with you, and they'll have you wearing they'll have the men dressing up in women's clothing, and the women with tattoos dressed up as like dudes in the second. So sometimes Westerners coming in and so-called remembering these indigenous communities is not always a good thing. It's not always a good thing. Leave these people. These people don't seem to be starving. They seem to be comfortable. They seem to at least have a food supply. Some Afro Mexican go out in the world and try to learn certain things and bring it back to their communities, hopefully and improve it. But it ain't so good that you always remembered by everyone, because when they remember you, they gonna remember to come and mess with you. you know and what I have discovered, in watching a lot of these digital nomads as they go about in various different places, is these communities are very peaceful. They're very respectful. Their manner and temperament is very different from the people who've been remembered in these so-called sophisticated countries. So that's not always a bad thing. But I know about the everybody know about the Afro Latinos, the blacks in Mexico and Ecuador and Colombia and Brazil. These are communities which are very large communities. But what happens is some of these communities are not English speaking. So in the English speaking world, they're not going to be given that press as other black communities who are English speakers, because the communication has to be translated. So I think that becomes a difficulty with having conversations with the brothers and sisters from these Spanish speaking countries and French speaking enclaves that exist, because there are a lot of black people. Well, all over, even in Venezuela. Even in Venezuela, there's a lot of black people in Venezuela. And black people are going to be impacted by Donald Trump doing what he's going to do, just like um, uh, European Venezuelans. And that story is not necessarily told, because it is what it is. It is what it is. But these people exist, and I know these people exist. But the narrative, when people push black people out there, is for a specific purpose. Especially in powerful countries, they use black people as their version of soft power to say, "Well, look how we treat these people here. Obviously, we're the better country because we provide equality for these people. We get millionaires sitting in high places doing this now. So these are the people who usually get the stage." But in reality, we know that black people exist all throughout the world, man. That's not a forgotten thing. Not at least not in my mind. But I'll leave it there for now, Coco.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Juan. I think though that I think you're a little bit caught up on the forgotten terminology there. I think what is really being discussed, and I think Trigger is starting to tap on it in the chat, is that you're othered in your own homeland, right? We know that, there was a black population in Mexico before these Europeans and stuff like that. And so here are these black folks, and they're being othered in their own homeland. And Trigger points out something here too that's good to remember too. He says they get forgotten because these countries are engaging in a whitening project, or they're trying to create a mixed identity. Mexico tries to build a mixed identity by way of European and indigenous. He goes on to say, from what I understand, when a group within a multi-ethnic society is forgotten, the idea is that they are not economically supported within the country at all. So not only are you othered socially, economically, you're cast aside. And I think that is problematic. And I think even though, because we are Pan-Africanists, yeah, we know about black folks in all these different regions, but what's happening to these black folks economically in these regions? And that's a problem of power, right? With that said, man, let me introduce Jose to the panel tonight. Jose, how are you?
Good evening. I'm 2 hours closer to you, so yeah, I'm here. And how are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. I appreciate you coming through.
Okay, greetings to the chat and the panel, which is one. Is it just the three of us?
No, Black Seal is here too. I'm going to introduce him after you finish.
All right. Okay, Black Steel and Buana. Greetings. The subject. I was, I've had a lot of time today and yesterday, and I came across. I was bugging on X Twitter a lot, and I came across the first black Turkish pilot in the Ottoman Empire, and I reacted like something like I want to see DNA results because I doubt remains of slavery is always, in those areas, Iraq, Palestine, Turkey. It's always remains of slavery, and I don't believe that. I believe we populated that area too around 2,000 years, max 2,000 years ago, and dude came responding, or someone came responding like, yeah, they migrated from Kenya. Like, what the fuck? But anyway, yes, black people everywhere. What can I say? I agree with Buana, and I agree also with you about the forgotten part, because they are not forgotten by us. Someone wants us to forget them, but no, they are not forgotten. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Jose. Yeah, that's a good point. Someone wants us to forget them, but they're not forgotten by the ones who know. Trigger Happy says, learning about the presence of black people in different places in the world is so interesting. As much as some anti-African groups try to muddy the waters, there are black people in areas beyond being a slave. He says, from what I understand, Jose, there are black people in West Asia by way of both enslavement and being indigenous. So, shout out to the affirmation by Pauline, but shout out to Trigger for some helpful insights from the chat as well. Josie, you want to respond to that or something?
No. I agree. Or better, I am open for information. Yes, West Asia, South Asia, East Asia, Philippines. We're everywhere. We are everywhere.
Yes, sir. With that said, man, we missed his presence last week, but he's back here this week. Black Steel, how are you? I did all that for Black Steel not to respond. I guess Black Steel.
I'm sorry. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm actually driving right now. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here, but I'm in the car right now. Yeah, I heard the prompt. I'm familiar with the Afro-Mexican people group. 1 second. So yeah, I'm familiar with them. Many of them actually were, so there were some who were runaways from slavery in America. Mexico abolished slavery in 1821, and some slaves escaped from Texas to Mexico on the Underground Railroad. So there are some of the survivors of that. Also, many of the Black Seminoles who fought in the Seminole Wars in Florida ended up in Mexico as well. So there's a lot of Black Seminoles, escaped slaves. Not only that, but also the population of Black people who were enslaved in Mexico, because Mexico, they had slavery in Mexico, brought there by the Spanish. So they're not forgotten, but when you look at Latin America, they do a job of whitening their population. They call it blancamiento, or mejor la raza, improve the race. So when you look on their media, you look on TV, they always show the whitest Mexicans, the whitest Dominicans, the whitest Brazilians, but they never showcase the Black ones, or even the indigenous ones. Excellent.
Appreciate that, Black Steel. Quick question for the panel. I know Black Steel might be busy, but quick question is for those Black folks, for those Africans who are not global minded, who are not Pan-African, do you think the average Black person outside of, say, consciousness or Pan-Africanism, do you think the average Black person is aware that there's these Black populations like in Mexico, like this group we just looked at on the screen, or in China or throughout Asia? Or
No.
do you think the average person knows?
No, they don't. No, they don't. In fact, because my girlfriend is in the car, she won't stop talking. She's saying that they're ignorant. What'd you say, baby? They say ignorant things. She's Dominican, but she looks Black American. So whenever she speaks Spanish, people look at her like she has two heads. Like, where did you learn Spanish from? As if there aren't Black people in the DR. But yeah,
Right.
They don't know. They don't know what they don't, but they don't know what they don't know, right? So, and I would say, if you're talking about Black people within the United States, most Americans are very unaware of geography, right? So when you see a Black person who isn't, who speaks French or Spanish or even African language, the question is, where are you at? Where are you from? And people tend to be generally unaware of the entire diaspora and how far it goes. You have Black people in India. I forget, that population of Black people who live in India, or the ones who were in Iraq, or the Afro-Palestinians. There's very few places you can go that there is not some Black presence there. We are the original people, after all. So it's not a shock that these people exist. But again, when you're not aware of what you don't know, then it becomes difficult.
Well said. What about Buana and Jose? Do y'all think, outside of being conscious of Pan-Africanists, do you think that most Black people are aware of these Black populations around the world?
I used to think and believe. I unlike Black Steel, I used to think and believe that Black people traveled so much, that they do know. But unfortunately, let me put it like that. After being on the internet, I have discovered that that's not necessarily true. And sometimes you see things through your lens, and it's better to look at people through their lens. I used to think that Black people are well traveled. That's not true. Most people don't go outside of their neighborhood, let alone a country. So, and their willingness to investigate, they are very unaware. You know what I like to hear sometimes? I bet you Black Steel wife or she could tell you the countless amount of times she probably would have entered into different sports in even in South Florida, and people talking about her in Spanish, and she just standing there and she could speak the language completely, but she would never let, because they think that all Black, they even have a limitation in terms of how they perceive Black people, as if Black people ain't fluent in Spanish and French and these other colonial languages as well. So she could probably tell you the many stories of going into the different sports and them not realizing and understanding that these people are fluent in different languages.
Okay. Well, I come from migrants. Of course, we are on an archipelago where every ship a ship of every country passes every few weeks. So yeah, we Cape Verdeans, we are well traveled. But it's not that people are aware, or even what's the word? It's not on people's mind. So we know we are all over the globe. Uh, um, but I don't think that it's conscious, as in there are people, there are Black people all over the world. Cape Verdean would not say that, although Cape Verdeans are spread over the world. Cape Verdean would rather say Cape Verdeans are spread over the world. But we encounter Blacks everywhere we go. But that notion, that click, is not there. I'm afraid that we are, everybody jokes about Americans, that they are ignorant of the world, etc. But that's worldwide. Most people are engaged in belonging where they live. They want to belong. And so I don't think our people are conscious of our people worldwide. I have there was like about 20 years ago, on Ning Network. I used to almost beg Black Americans, because they are in the belly of the propaganda beast, right? America is like a flea market, as MG2 always says. America is a flea market that sells lifestyles, and every creed and race has its own lifestyle. So Asians or Chinese, they looked at America, saw Chinatown, and now you have Chinatown in almost every Western world. Whites have this friend, 20 years and white, or so it's or something like that. Excuse me. I'm 23 and white, or something like that. So they are told to be free and travel and whatever. And us, We have the lifestyle of I'm going to use the word degeneracy, but so 20 years ago I've been begging for Black Americans to notice us and tell the world about us. If you understand what I mean. So the United States is the propaganda machine, or the narrative machine, and Black Americans live there. And what I suggested was to get to know blacks all over the world, and then tell blacks over the world about blacks over the world. If you follow what I'm saying, because you
Yes,
are right
absolutely.
because you are right there in the center of the media. Everybody watches. Everybody's face is turned to the United States. It's changing, of course, but I hope you follow me. So I still believe Black Americans have that position of power to be our Trojan horse in the media propaganda machine. If you follow what I'm saying.
Yes,
I
sir.
wouldn't put
Yeah,
too much hope in that if I were you, Jose.
yeah, because I was just going to say, and Black Sea was correct. You can't put too much hope in it because, unfortunately, that group that you're speaking of is propagandized the most. They're in, like as you said, the belly of the propaganda beast. They're propagandized the most, and so right now we're dealing with a delineation movement, and and that didn't just start now. By the way, that's been catching on for a while now. And so here we are. So that group, like Black Steel said, I wouldn't, again, nothing against that group or anything, but they're heavily propagandized as well. So they're not going to be the propaganda Trojan horse that we would hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Go
hidden
ahead,
history
go ahead,
like
Jose.
it. Sorry, hidden history looked like it, but yeah, tarik.
Go ahead, Juana.
No, the only thing I would add is I wouldn't put the onus on the Black American brothers to do it. Even though I understand what Jose is saying, I think that we live in a time now where you have most people have access to phones that have videos. If you want to introduce yourself to the world, Cape Verde people have mouths, and if for the people who don't speak the colonial language of English, I'm sure I don't know what's the language. What's the language in Cape Verde? Jose. What's the language again? Dutch?
Portuguese and
Portuguese. Right.
local and local.
Right. Yeah. So the Cape Verde people have access to the people of Brazil. That's 80 million black people, brother. 80 million. So I mean, or even on that level, if the Cape Verde people want to introduce themselves to other black groups of black people, you have 80 million black people who speak Portuguese in Brazil. And in other and Angola as well. So I mean, for the people who don't actually speak English in Cape Verde, they could introduce themselves to people in different African nations and countries, and also for the people who actually speak English, they could do the job themselves. Don't wait on the other. Don't wait on the brothers in America. Your brothers could do it yourself. Y'all don't have to wait.
I understand, but that's a decentralized approach. Brazil already loves us, but Angola, the African Portuguese colonies may give us, they may frown on us because Portuguese recruited us a lot to be their foot soldiers in other African nations. So yeah, we even got songs of that. We even got songs like um, singing about you went there and you stayed there as fertilizer for cacao. you know. So yeah, we maybe we are not for Brazil already loves us. Brazil, I've seen television programs in Brazil speaking about Cape Verde being in the center of the Atlantic Ocean, and thus strong strong potency to become the largest transshipment port of the globe. And Cape Verdeans are sleeping on it. They follow what IMF wants. But yeah, the Brazilians already found us. That we used to go study in Eastern Europe and Soviet nations, but now like 80% of us go study in Brazil. So yeah, that connection with Brazil is already strong. But yeah, on the continent, maybe people will give us a side eye. The conscious people, the revolutionaries know that we have played a doubtful role in colonial wars. But also heroic in Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde. You all know Amilcar Cabral. But anyway, yes, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it, Dulce. Just real quick, I want to kind of echo what Buono was saying, and I like how Jose described it. He said it's a decentralized approach. I think sometimes decentralized approaches aren't bad. I think one of the things I wish I could get every black group, wherever they are on this globe, is to understand that, you know what? You're cool too. Y'all do some cool shit too. And stop looking at the Americans for this inspiration, for this thrust, for this drive. You're cool too. What cool shit are you going to do in your part of the world? And I wish I could get that across to everyone, but here we are. Quickly in the chat, I can fires in the chat. He said, black people know about other black people. The problem is colonization, which is Christianity, causes them not to care. European and Europe is a priority. Trigger Happy says the vanguard has to be in Africa, talking about where the inspiration should come from. If we want to do propaganda and push good imagery, it honestly has to develop in Africa. Then he had asked the question, what about Cape Verde relationship with Guinea-Bissau and Senegambia? We'll come back to that in a bit. In the meantime, though, let me welcome in Ditso. Let me welcome in Ditso to the panel this week. How are you, Ditso?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me once again. Pura vida. Actually, this first topic is right on my alley, as everybody knows, because I am an Afro-Indigenous descendant from the history here in Central America. So if I can and if possible, I just want to do some real quickly, because I think this is important that we leave it recorded as in many places as we can. One, we know by a fact that at least a minimum of 12 million slaves were brought to the Western Hemisphere between early 1100s or 1500s up till late 1800s or 11800s. So we know a period of 360, 380 years. That span of 12 million slaves were brought because of the colonization of Europe here. For example, in one of the first encounters with a African servant to Columbus was done as early as 1492 or 11492. He was on the trip with Columbus, Juan Pietro. And in Mexico, for example, we know that the minimum amount of slaves that were brought in Mexico in a period of 150 to 200 years, we're talking even with Hernán Cortés, who had several slaves, African slaves with him. We're talking in that period of anywhere between 150 to 200 years, was a minimum of 500,000 slaves in Mexico, just alone in Mexico. We know that throughout the Caribbean and Central America, and adding parts of South America like Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, received the most amount of slaves in that sense, being Brazil one of the major areas that calculations based on the documentation that we have say that at least anywhere between 5 to 10% of the slaves that were brought here ended up in Brazil. So what is funny and has always been funny in I'm using funny in a very loosely sarcastic way, is the fact that U.S. based Black community, and we're not going to deny the history that implemented that is follows in the United States, doesn't realize that the majority of Afro descendancy, or FBAs, Foundation of Black Americans, or ADOS, the American Descendants of Slavery, are not in the United States. They are in Latin America and the Caribbean. And that, one matter of fact, one of the first Black countries and nations that liberated itself from Europe, even before Africa, was Haiti. So in that sense, the problem here resides in the lack of understanding that Black community. I mean, just last year in Georgia, there was the first Inter-American conference between Colombian Afro-descendancy of slavery and U.S.-based Afro-descendancy. So there are efforts that people like me and people in the Western Hemisphere keep on doing, but this is something that we received from our fathers and grandfathers and great great grandfathers and great great grandmothers in that sense, because we've been doing this for the past 250 years since the era of independence. So it's been like a systematic and constant reminder to the Anglo-Americans, yo, you're not alone. Yo, the majority of slavery did not happen in what is modern day today United States. It happened in what is modern day Caribbean and Latin America, be it Mexico down to Argentina and Central America in that sense. So what is funny is that by saying most forgotten Black communities, it has a double meaning. There's no doubt that the problems internally in Mexico and the racism in Mexico and the difficulties that Black communities or descendancy of slavery communities have had throughout the last 200 years of history in Mexico are there. But alongside that, those internal problems that we could go into depth and have a hell of a conversation into that, alongside of that, having to deal with the erasure that is being done by the Anglo-Americans in regards to the identity of who's Black. So we're faced with a double crime, with not only an insult, but an injury added to that insult. And with this, I conclude, as somebody who knows it's his origin and where his blood came from, where his history comes from, and I am a rare breed because I'm a combination between Afro descendancy and indigenous. That is not very common in any place throughout Latin America or the North American section. But precisely because of that combination, I'm able to tap into a more centered understanding of what actually happened here. And having that enables me to then raise my voice and say, We're here, we've never left, and we're still here. And just to conclude on this, Latin America has a population of 660 million people, doubles that of the United States. True, divided in 33 nations, out of which 150 million to 200 million people are Afro-descendants of slavery, either monoparental or at least one parent. So that means close to half-ish of the population of Latin America are descendants of slavery. Not half-ish, but we would say out of 660,000, 660 million people, 150 million represents about 23%. I may be on my math off right now, but in any case, it represents a big chunk of the population. So thank you. Any questions? Gladly to answer.
Yeah, I appreciate that, did so. Really quick, Trigger Happy in the chat says, for me, I always knew black people were in South and Central America because of football. I didn't know there were black people in Mexico until I came online. That's Trigger Happy. He said many black footballers from Colombia, Brazil, Panama, Honduras, Ecuador, etc. The problem with for me, I recognize early that when you look at cricket or you look at football, classical football, you realize, or soccer, you realize that a lot of black folks are imported to these different countries just to play ball too, just to play football too. So I was also aware of that some of these places probably don't have too many black people, but they recruited these guys to play for their squad. With that said, man, let me welcome in our boy, Real Black Gentleman. Haven't seen you in a while. RBG, how are you?
Man, I'm good, Coco. I'm good. I just wanted to show up and spit my spit, you know.
Yeah, do your thing.
As far as this Afro-Mexicans, there's a lot to be said about pre-Columbian trips to the Americas. Just going back to Kemet, going back to the boats that they had. They would sail from basically Kemet to Somalia to Punt in they little reed papyrus boats, which is a fairly large, it's a long trip on a vessel, you know, regardless of, you know what I'm saying, like how you sail, or, you know, if you're kind of close to the shore, which isn't necessarily the best thing when you sail, because if you're on a kind of a rickety boat and you get the waves crashing you on shore, you want to be kind of in the middle of whatever sea or ocean that you're in. So that being said, I mean, there's all kinds of references to African peoples being in the Americas, with several several things. The Carthaginians may have been Hannibal's people may have been in the Americas. This topic kind of I'm reading a book white dude wrote it, Richard Poe. It's called Black Spark White Fire. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that book, but you know what I'm saying, he's just compiling, you know, sources, you know, just trying to put put the notions about who really civilized who. But one of the things that he references is what's the name? Thor Heyerdahl. He kind of basically he took one of the boats that was in Kemet. He kind of copied it to the best he could, and he did it once and he almost made it. And on the second try, he made the boat how it should have been made. And he sailed from, I don't know, it was a long, I think it was somewhere in Africa, across the Atlantic. You know what I'm saying? Just long story short, he sailed in a reed. Yeah, in a reed boat, which is, you know, like you see reeds, cattails, basically reeds. You know what I'm saying? Sugar, you know, we all know what reeds are, on a reed papyrus boat all the way across the Atlantic. Now, if this white man can do this shit, trying to figure out what he done saw on some ancient texts, of course, black people made boats and sailed across the Atlantic. I mean, it is an ocean. You do have storms, but at the same time, one of the safest places on a boat is really in the middle of it, in the middle of the ocean, because like I said before, when you're closer to shore, you have the waves, the breakers that crash, and your boat can tumble over. Even in the middle of a rough storm, if your boat floats, the sea may heave in y'all a little bit, but you'll still be afloat, right? And that's the premise. You sail off. The currents take you to the new world. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, a lot of these people. I mean, I would say that a lot of the people who would be considered black, I mean, as black as this guy looks, he may have been in a population, like I said, of Africans pre-Columbian who managed to, for what it's worth, the black stuck, the dominant stuck, you know what I'm saying? In this case, where you have strong, look, he's darker than me. I'm telling you, you got strong black people who, some of them are slave populations, but again, there's, like I said, there are peoples who, I mean, this is documented by like the conquistadors and all of them. You know what I'm saying? I want to say someone on Columbus's boat said that they saw African people sailing past them. Like, so I know that black people were definitely in the New World before Columbus, before all of that. And it's important to recognize that a lot of these people, they generally want, like I came in late, so I rewind the video. Like, this man is saying he just wants more recognition in, in Mexico, and which he should have. I mean, what's important though is that, beyond the propaganda that is put on our people, that we actually recognize like as much of our history as we can, because people get stories about coming across the sea and our people came across, you know what I'm saying? But there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, legends, I mean, it only takes is like 5 generations to have a legend just spawn. And all of a sudden, like, what really happened just turns into a tall tale that the truth is in, but you know what I'm saying? It's kind of twisted a little bit. That's all I got to say.
If possible, I would like to just push them back if possible.
Real quick, before you do that, I just wanted to comment on something that RBG mentioned. He said, he's talking about that book he read, and the white guy who remade the ships that were described. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with the book, but I'm familiar with that white guy who sailed that ship. That ship, just to be super clear about that ship was, as Black Steel said, made of reeds. It was like a basket woven ship. These guys were able to sail from the continent around the world in basket woven ships. I want y'all to think about that. You're like, that's what we were capable of doing, and it was proven that this guy can that technology could have gotten you around the world. Very interesting stuff. Did so, and then after I have to introduce a new panelist.
Okay, thanks so much. Let's tackle this real quickly. In the book written by Michael A. Gomez, African Dominion, A New History of Empire in Early and Medieval West Africa, Michael A. Gomez tells us the story of Mansa Musa, the Malian king who came to power after his predecessor, Mansa Muhammad B. Q, failed to return from an oceanic voyage of the west coast of Africa. Muhammad B. voyage took place after an initial dispatch was more or less unsuccessful. We also know that in the famous Hajj of the old governor of Old Cairo, Abu Hassan and Ali B. Amir Habib, wrote about this particular trip. But here's the problem. The anthropological evidence tells us that, yes, Western Africans pre-Columbus, in the span of 500 to 600 years prior to Columbus had had naval capabilities to a certain degree. Now, this whole thing, or this whole hypothesis of who arrived before, we have more evidence of, for example, the Vikings arriving on Newfoundland, on the Canadian slash eastern shores of what is today North America, in that sense. But the dissertation of this hypothesis originates in the 20s by the massive book volume work by Leo Messier, who's this it's an interesting analysis in many ways, but it's very outdated in many other ways. But it's called the Africa and the Discovery of America, or Americas, if we give valid sense to the North sense. So, based on this, and based on the anthropological evidence that we can obtain, either as primary source as we can, or secondary as we can, there's a lot of skepticism. It is true that what we want to do is decentralize the idea that Columbus, quote unquote, and I seriously quote unquote the word discovered, because he did not discover America. He just stumbled on it because the idiot miscalculated the circumference of the earth. And fundamentally, that Columbus was not the first to actually discover, quote unquote, term discover, this land of the Western Hemisphere. That 30,000 years prior, other humans had already discovered it, which is evident on one example, the footprints of the footprints that have dated 26,000, 30,000 years prior in the White Sands in New Mexico, and then eventually have been populated throughout the whole continent. Now, the question of, for example, we have evidence of DNA where there was an intermingle, particularly with Pacific Coast South Americans, either Peruvians, Ecuador, with indigenous peoples of that area, of the Andino region, with Pacific Ocean or Pacific Islanders, indigenous that did cross the Pacific, and we did obtain not only DNA but certain anthropological evidence that suggests that there were certain Pacific Islanders arriving to at least that Pacific region of South America and partially Central America in that sense. So I think that the major point, and with this I conclude, is it is best to not entertain hypotheses that have not given me any form of misguidance, and be able to know and obtain the actual aspect of the anthropological evidence that we have here. So to denote that there were people with dark skin and with complexions that were very similar to what you would find in Africa does not and should not be made into a translation of that they were black in the modern sense of how we understand black. With that, right, I conclude. Sorry.
Thank you for that. And so with that said, let's welcome in Brother Bakari this week. Brother Bakari, how are you?
What's going on, my man? What's going on to the panel, to the chat? Look, those you were talking about the forgotten community, black community in Mexico. Majority of those black Mexicans ain't indigenous. We need those. Most of those black people came here with Juan Garrido. Look up and see who Juan Garrido is, and you'll see how black people came to Mexico. Was it before Christopher Columbus? Yeah. Then you can see that was during the slave trade. Some of those people ended up being enslaved. Then you can see, well, Gaspar Yanga, who was an enslaved African, uh, 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 who was an enslaved African over there in Mexico, who led a slave rebellion. We black people, we got to stop saying that we indigenous to this land. We're not. And if some black people came here, and if you happen to look like an African with the same hair and the same dark skin, guess what? You'll be black, even in the modern sense. They would be black. And 9 times out of 10, they would have come from Africa. But that forgotten community there was black people. Like I said, study Juan Garrido and see who Juan Garrido is. And you'll see he came here with the Portuguese. He came here with the Portuguese in the 1400s, uh, fighting. He actually helped them get land, and the Portuguese turned on him because he refused to enslave the indigenous people of Mexico. Uh, that's actually they are the ones that bought wheat here because they showed Mexicans, the indigenous people there, how to sow wheat, how to grow wheat. That's how they were the first ones bring wheat here when they came with the Portuguese to survive. But that forgotten black community, and what I tell people is when we look and talking about, we gonna stand up for Mexican people, and you have the black and brown community. Look and see how the brown people in their countries treat the black people in their country, and ask yourself why you still standing up for people that want to treat your people uh that way. That's my take. I get the mic.
Appreciate that, Brother Bukai. Does anyone have any comments, anything they heard or read in the chat?
Just real quickly, what's interesting is Juan Garrido. He arrived in the Caribbean Mexico area, early 1500s or 11500s, and just so everybody knows, Ivan Van Sertima was actually born in Guyana, and he was a Guyanese-born British Associate Professor of African Studies at Rutgers University. He migrated to the United States. And yet, what is interesting on this sense, and I want to people keep this in mind whenever they hear a Anglo-American black or African descendancy of slave quoting Ivan Van Sertima, that you're quoting a man who was born not in the United States, but he was born in Guyana. So how is it that he's considered black? Just gonna leave that there.
Because black is not a United States thing. We got to get past that. People been black for a very, 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 very long time. It's not a United States thing. Study Diodorus, ancient Greek, and go study some of their readings. And matter of fact, if I had your stuff, I could send it to you. The same thing I had to show my son. And you would see way, way, way back 2,000 years ago. You would see some people was considered black, and people were
my
considered
history.
white, and
I
people
know.
were considered white. Black people's not just in the United States. Black come from Africa. So the term black was a label, just like the term white, because our skin were close. That's what I'm just
Sure.
saying.
I get all that. We can agree on the semantics of it and the origins of semantics. And it goes back to the original point I was making. We cannot, by any means, way, shape, or manner, enable a label, a categorization that is applied on modern day, on presentism, to then be applied to the realities that were happening in the Western Hemisphere, either pre the invasion of Europeans and the genocide of Europeans committed here, and the broad of slavery over here, and the era of that invasion. So it has to do with the semantics in that sense. So, in very short and concise way, were there indigenous people whose phenotypical um, aspect was similar to Africans at that same time period because they lived in more tropic regions? Yes, there were clear, you know, correlation in a phenotypical way. But that correlation escapes the causation of why we, Homo sapiens sapiens, can develop very similar traits across an ocean.
I I want to say something about the black. You know, so he's not black. What is he? Is he zwart? Is he negro? Is he noir?
Okay, so if we really want to address how we can categorize, um, how we can, I'm going to make it very simple. How can we categorize?
I was being sarcastic. I was being sarcastic.
No,
Okay.
but I'll grab your sarcasm, and it's an interesting sarcasm because it's a moment of education. How can we categorize the people pre-arrival Europeans here? So one of the best approaches is understanding what they call themselves. And then how can we categorize the people post-invasion of Europe in that sense? And it goes into the same line. So your sarcasm works to hit on the point. See what I mean?
So,
absolutely not. No, I don't see.
With respect to Sister Cheryl, who's a contributor on the panel often, she says she has a question about the indigenous of Australia. So we'll keep this brief because it is a little off the topic slightly, but we'll keep it brief. I know this discussion has been had on other panels like Kofi's panel and stuff like that. But do you consider the indigenous of Australia? Do you consider them African? Anyone can answer, but keep the answer brief for me.
I would consider them to be black, but not African. So what we know about the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, going back to what archaeologists have found, they arrived in Australia probably around 65,000 to 70,000 years ago. And they pretty much lived in isolation all that time until the Europeans made contact in the late 18th century. So they are black people. In fact, there was an incident in Australian history called the Black War, where they went around, fighting with the indigenous people. So I would consider them to be black, but I would not consider them to be African because think about it. If they arrived in Australia 65, 70,000 years ago, like that's a long. They were there in Australia prior to the human settlement of the Americas. So yeah, long story short, I do consider them to be black people, but I don't consider them to be African.
I consider them to be black. I consider them to be Africans. They've just been gone for long. They were isolated amongst themselves, so they were African people that just ended up somewhere else. But I understand what Black Steel is saying. I understand what Black Steel is saying, that you've been gone so long where you eventually become you become your own people. You may not be that same thing anymore. But for me, I would just still say they're African, especially being isolated. They were just some African people that went somewhere else. That's how I see it. So I'm not going against what Black still said. I understand why he came up. I understand why he say. I understand why he say what he say. But I'm gonna say this. Then I'm gonna. But arguing about if someone is black, talking about don't put labels and don't do this. That's part of, man. I'm just being honest. That's so part of the reason why it is so hard for us to talk about coming together, man. Because it is so hard because we want to argue. This group of black people want to be the special black people. So those black people, they're not really black, right? and it's so hard for us. So then I'm the indigenous. So now I'm not the same as you because you say your family came here off a slave. We keep looking for reasons to divide ourselves. That's all. And the more I hear us talk, that's literally what we do all the time. We look for something to divide ourselves. And this have nothing to do with me or black. Me or black still just said. I'm just saying how when I hear this, he hit and I hit it. That's it, man. I hear the I hear the mic, man.
I could answer this question. Very good. I think. Um, Ace Life has the guy who I said is a digital nomad. He went to the Pacific Island. He went to the Pacific Island in these areas, in these indigenous black countries, and we could say that they black and they're African. But what's most important is what they say about themselves. And they say they African. They say they came from Africa. That's what they say. So I mean, we could say what we want to say, and the books can say what they want to say. But I really listen to what the people say about themselves. And on camera, everyone can look at it. You'll go on Ace Live or YouTube channel. He went to several Pacific Island countries, and every one of them was saying the consistent same thing. We come from Africa. We are Africans. This is what they say about themselves. So I mean, it may be 65,000 years ago. It may be that long, but when you ask them where they come from, that's what they say about themselves. That's all I gotta say. You know.
Yeah. I wanted to add something to that too. So 70, 60, 70,000 years ago, they arrived there the first time because it's not only the non-Afro blacks that are there. You also have I forgot shit. Maluku. You also got the Maluku, and they look African, right? On the Papua Islands, the Papua New Guinea. You also have people that look like us with our hair. So 70,000, 60,000 years ago, that I believe that was the first time. The out of Africa theory is not a one time event. The people it's let's say it was since 70,000 years ago that people been leaving the continent. So yeah, I agree
So,
with Juana and Trigger Happy
so
or Black Steel.
I may be a voice of caution in that sense. But for example, in that question of do we consider Indigenous Australians as aka black, and looking at the discussion within the chat that black equals African, look, number one, we know by the digs in the Majid Bebe rock in the Northern Territory of Australia that the first humans arrived in Australia anywhere between 40,000 to 60,000 years prior to anything on that sense. We know that some of that carried a genetic interbreeding between modern day Homo sapiens sapiens and the Denisovans in that sense, contrary to what happened in the Western Hemisphere, that we see a differentiation of the genetic mapping in that sense. We can also say that, like I stated before, we mustn't fall on the trap and on the idiocy of enabling categorizations, modern day categorizations that we utilize for modern day people and groups of people to be applied to the past. It's just it creates a whole idiocy and problems in that sense. So, of course, for those who claim that indigenous is equal to black, therefore equal to African, and push forwards those hypotheses, if they're consistent, they would say Australians are black, but they wouldn't say that, and they haven't said that because adding into the issue of Australia f's up their whole hypothesis in many ways. So, since I am not ascribed to use those terms to describe that past, I would tell you no, Australians are not black as we understand it today, modern. Were there dark skin and complexion in Australia? Yes. But that does not equate to black as we understand it today in the modern day.
But hold on,
Man,
wait a minute. Okay,
For me,
okay.
black equals African all day. But go ahead, Buana, then real black gentleman.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor the point. The brothers, Ditto say that they arrived 60 something whatever years ago, whatever. My question become, arrive from where? Arrive from where? And I say, when you speak to these people and ask them where they say they come from, they are saying they come from Africa. So I am not gonna invisibilize their comments, because for an anthropologist or someone who sits down in a university and writes on paper what he believes these people to be, I gonna defer to them where they say they come from. To me, that makes sense.
But Buana,
Go
you're
ahead,
talking
brother.
about two different things, though.
Okay.
The people native to us, to the continent of Australia, have no memory of being from any place else other than Australia. Look at their mythology. Now, you're talking about people in Melanesia and the Polynesian Islands. That's a different story. But the people native to Australia have no memory of being from anywhere other than Australia. And yes, they did come across. They were Homo sapiens. They crossed the land bridge between Papua New Guinea and Australia that existed thousands of years ago when the sea levels were a lot smaller during during the ice ages. So black people who live in that area, in that history, they've been away from Africa for so long. Why are we calling them that? Just think about this, for example, right? We wouldn't call Europeans Africans, even though their ancestors came from Africa too. In some cases, they came from Africa after the people from Australia made it to Australia. So I'm just wondering, like, at what point does Africa end and Australia
Say that
begin?
again, Black Steel, because I didn't hear you. I missed.
So
I
here's
ain't
what
trying
I'm
to cut
saying,
you
right?
off. No,
If
I'm
we're
asking you to
talking
say it
about the
again, like when you said it
migration
came
of
from Africa. That's it.
humanity, if we're talking about the migration of human beings across the world, right? We understand that, and this is an estimate, I'm going by what scientists say, 65,000 to 70,000 years ago, people reached Australia, right? At what point does Africa end and Australia begins, right? Because you had human beings who were migrating into Europe at that same period of time. But we wouldn't call them African, even though they originate in Africa also. So that's kind of my thing, that where do we draw the line at?
So
And white people are more recent.
Good.
That left
Okay.
out of Africa. White people are younger. So Australian Aboriginals will be older. So white people recently left Africa. If we're going to do that.
But I would say, one thing, hold on, Ditso.
Sure.
One thing, I say we draw the line at culture. So now, if you now that's legitimate what you say, Black Steel, because when you see the Aboriginals in Australia, even though if you look at how they are in terms of culture, whatever, it's very difficult to say that's African culture. It's very difficult to say that. But I'm gonna tell you what the problem is, Black Steel. When you say that these people have been out of Africa so long, they actually creating their own ethnogenesis. Now you don't use that word, but now that's the FBA argument. We've been out of America, we've been out of Africa so long, we created our own ethnogenesis inside this place. So we are no longer African. That's it indirectly. I know you weren't saying that, but indirectly, when you put a time gauge and say, well, you are no longer African because whether I've been out of Africa for 65,000 years or 150 years, you are no longer African. You understand where I'm getting at? So indirectly, you are making their argument. It really sounded like it.
But that doesn't make any sense because you have to be out of Africa for a certain amount of time. That's not long enough for a real ethnogenesis to happen. So even when FBA makes that lame arguments, we still know there are a lot of elements culturally that we could directly point to that is distinctly West African. But I see what you're saying.
First,
But
let me do something real quickly before anybody else advances and we lose the opportunity. By the time the Homo sapiens appeared in Africa, there were an estimation of 6 to 8 different Homo species in the world. This happened anywhere between 300,000 to 200,000 years ago. So we know that the Homo sapiens started exiting and migrating and mobilizing from Africa and interbreeding with the Neanderthals, with the Denisovans, etc.
That's not true. That's not true, Ditso.
That's true. That's anthropological evidence.
No, not in Africa. So the Neanderthal was not in Africa. The
No.
Neanderthal. You said humans interbreeding with Neanderthals is something that happened outside of Africa, not in Africa.
What you did not hear is what I said. Okay, let me restate it again, and you can rewind the tape and hear exactly what I said on this sense. What I said is the first Homo sapiens appeared anywhere between 300 to 200,000 years ago. Then, slowly, those Homo sapiens started to exit Africa and start migrating and mobilizing. Once they started reaching areas where the Neanderthals or the Denisovans were, there was clear conflict, but at the same time, clear interbreeding between the two species. This is why the origin of us, what we are known as, denominated as Homo sapiens sapiens, are currently the only hominoids, the only species that survived all that whole mess that was happening 200, 300,000 years ago. So to understand that, and this is extremely important, yes, all evidence shows to us that the first Homo sapiens sapiens appeared in Africa. However, to just do a reduction of that without understanding how and how humans started mobilizing, it's also an absurdity. So, sure, we can recognize that all of us, our first ancestors, the first ones ever, exited out of Africa and mobilized. But from the moment they exited Africa to the moment they arrived to Australia, the genetic thing and the genetic makeup was completely and utterly different.
Agreed.
From what it started in that sense.
This I want to mention something real quick because that's the point that I feel a lot of people that don't understand human migration and genetics don't understand. You guys have to understand, or whoever don't understand, human migration happened in segments. It didn't happen in a generation. It didn't happen in 4 generations, 5 generations. It took the world is large. The world is big. No one group of people in 1 or 2 generations circumnavigated the whole globe. That didn't happen. So what Ditso was trying to say, by the time they got there, due to environmental changes and them being with other groups, they are different people.
Yeah, and 200,000, 300,000 years ago, there was no place called Africa.
Okay, let's watch this. So we ain't gonna go by modern terms no more, right? So here's the thing: we ain't gonna argue with FBA and ADOS and the indigenous Black Americans and tell them they're African. See, you can leave whenever; it's still there. So so now it's getting to the point, and this is why I say it's hard being Black and it's hard coming together with Black people, because Black people want to argue and tell you those Black people are not Black because they left and they've been gone so long. Their genetic marker changed. We know during the Out of Africa theory, Black Africans left, Homo sapiens bred with Neanderthals who were white. For some strange reason, Black people also want to take the European history too and say, oh, those people were Black. No, they wouldn't. Those were white people.
No, they weren't. I can tell you the name of those people.
Okay, good. Let me finish. I ain't cut you off, so let me finish. So,
all right, cool.
And they interbred. But we want everybody to be descendants of us, except the people that is actually descendants of us. We want to claim Europeans. We want to claim Asians. But then when you see the people in Papua New Guinea and them people tell you they're African, and when the chief of the tribe stand up and tell you he African, you got black people want to tell you they're not black, they're not African, but let's figure out a way to claim white people. So watch this. We should never blame nothing on white people no more, because they were just black people that turned a different color and decided to, so we enslaved ourselves. Don't blame, ain't no white people. Everybody on the world, everybody on the earth is just, I don't know, I guess would be black, because we want them. But we don't want the ones that is us, but we want the Europeans. And we want to claim the Europeans, but we don't want the black ones.
You're making a different argument, brother.
Yeah,
Bakari.
It doesn't make sense.
That's not what we're saying. You're what we're doing right now.
Hold on. Because the scope of this first topic here has kind of shifted. Not kind of, it has shifted now. What I think Brother Bakari is getting at, and I agree with it too. We're going through a lot of different eras of time and all this stuff just to say someone is in black. I have to go with Buana on this one completely. Shalom, sorry, it was a good question. It's just where it went. I have to side with Buana on this. If them people, and I think Bakari said the same thing, if them people are telling you we come from over there, and I've seen the videos where them people point in the air, we come from that way. We come from Africa. Who are we to tell them they're not African? I think we're jumping through too much hoops. You know, it's simple. We're black equals African, and we just keep it at that. You know, I think it was Trigger Happy in the chat. He made a point of Obadeli Campbell, who said something like there's ancient Africans, enslaved Africans, and economic refugee Africans, or something of that nature. That's what it is. Okay, you know what I mean?
So if someone says they came from the moon, you must believe that they came from the moon simply because they said they came from the moon. Like so we just believe what anybody says on his face, and what we're doing is what FBA does, is doing lookership. Oh, you look like that, so you must be the same. Like that's like what is that? To me, that's scientific intellectual laziness, because we know when it comes to humans, we know when it comes to animals, plants, something could look exactly the same, but it's not the same genetically. There are two. That's why there's there's categories in nature. That's why there's species. Even within different species, you have different branches of that.
Hold on. No. Hold on. The thing that you're skipping over is the people have a history. They have a testament. They've discussed and passed down their history. And the people of today are telling you, yeah, we come from Africa. Why are we fighting against what they're saying?
Well, when it comes to this, forgive me. If it's coming to this prompt, if it's about the Afro on Mexicans, then that's absolutely correct, because they have a history of conquistadors taking slaves from Africa, into Mexico. So yes, they are black Mexicans. So I'm not trying to talk against the prompt. I'm just talking against. I came in when Black Steel was talking about the Aboriginals.
Only when it comes to pure slave, and let's claim our European brethren. Shit is crazy.
Like I said, when it comes to this, I yield. When it comes to Afro Mexicans, I'm not saying they're not African, because history proves that they are. I'm not speaking against that. I'm speaking about Aboriginals. So that's pretty much it.
Let me make this very simple for everybody.
You have to hold that, because you're kind of long-winded, but also I got two other panelists who've been waiting for a minute, quietly, by the way. Didn't interject or anything. So first of all, it'll be I Can Fire. I Can Fire. How are you this week?
Hey, Quaco, respect. I'm all right. Respect.
Yes, sir.
Respect to the panel. Feel me?
Yeah. So speak to the forgotten black community in Mexico for me.
Yeah. I think that the dude in the panel from Costa Rica, he's giving a lot of trouble, because he's not really black. He may be. I don't know if he mixed. I need to see his hair. You feel me? But anyway, I love my black Mexicans and my black South American people. This what I have to say. Are we thinking from a level of power, or just because we not in the position of power, we thinking on a powerless level? Now, what if we had the power in the world, right? Then who would you protect? Would you say, oh, these Aborigines that are black and being hostage on their own continent? Would you say that because you say they are not African, you would not protect them? You see me? This is how I look at things. Like, we need a world power. We need Africa to be a world power, so Africa can rule the equator in terms of all the black protection and privilege for all the black people in the South China Sea and the South Indian Sea and the Australian Sea and whatever sea it is, and same protection for the Caribbean and the black people in South America. Protection as in inclusiveness. Africans should come and do businesses with these communities so they can rise in these areas and be what you call, well, at least even get richer than the communities around them. You feel me? So and even more powerful, so they can have their own structure in South America, and a structure where it demands respect from even the indigenous there. So, and we not wicked, so we ain't gonna use our privilege on them to say do them wickedness unless they are doing what's wickedness. But it's like how the white people can come and have reserves in Africa where they are right, and Europe is sponsoring them over in Western Cape. You feel me? Europe is sponsoring them. The small hats is sponsoring them to thrive over the indigenous of the land. You feel me? I think we should do these things. This is how we should think in reverse on them. So we structure Black America for Black Africa can do all of that. I mean, it gonna take us to enforce the strength or the wall around Africa for Africa to grow, that it can extend its hand to the rest of the world. You feel me? But that's where we should be going. Instead of, I mean, no one got, you don't want no, you want the land. You want, Africa needs the land that the black people is on in South America. Africa needs to guarantee land for Black America in America. Africa needs to guarantee security for the indigenous of Australia and Papua New Guinea and all that. Guarantees, like you have Indonesia is offending the people of Papua New Guinea. That's where we come in. We defend these things and make sure black people get a fair security system in this world. You feel me? So all the pain we need to try to take away all the pain that black people is going through over these centuries. You feel me? And give black people privilege and wealth and morality. You feel me? And that's what I look at. You feel me? I say respect to Latinos, respect to you. You feel me? but I can't focus on Latinos. My focus is on black people in the Latin world. You feel me? I can't focus on the whites or Chinese or these people. These people, a lot of these people, they what you'd call, they hang on to the shirt sleeves and got of white supremacy and got privilege out of it. It's only the black people that didn't get privilege out of the system that they enslaved us to build. So that's everybody. That's everyone. The the black people in in Australia, they went through a lot. You feel me? The black people in Papua New Guinea, they went through a lot. Racism and massacres and all that stuff they went through, just like us. You feel me? We have black people in India. All of Africa needs to be strong so it can protect all of these people, all of them, everyone, and have and give them privilege where they at. You feel me? Because of the power that we give Africa. You understand? That's it. That's it right there.
Appreciate that. I can fire. Mr. Cheryl is here as well. Mr. Cheryl, how are you this week?
I'm good. Can y'all hear me?
I can. By the way, shout out to you and your husband. I saw him in the chat earlier saying peace to everyone.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he was in the chat.
So shout out to y'all.
Oh, cool. And yeah, just really quick, just to change the subject a little, a shout out to all the people in Jamaica that just got hit by that hurricane. Yeah, that was crazy. That was catastrophic. So I mean, if anybody has any family over there, hope everyone's doing well. And yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I was there after the hurricane hit, and it was a mess.
Yeah, goodness. But yeah, just back to the topic. I'm making short because this is still topic one. So no worries. But okay, so I think as a people and I'm going to get back to the topic, but I think as a people we kind of stretch ourselves thin, and by that we're such a caring and loving people. We try to reach as many people as possible, and I think that's just how we are as a people, and it can be a strength and it can also be a weakness. But I think sometimes we get a little unfocused on what is black and what is not, because like when you go into other groups of people and other populations of people, it doesn't matter how much they look like each other. If they're from different regions, they have categories for people who do not look like the general population of the people. So for instance, if you it's nothing against nobody, indigenous people, they suffered a lot, through colonization, just like pretty much everybody in the world. It's insane. It's wrong. And I can acknowledge that it's wrong. And I can also acknowledge that if you drop an Australian off in Jamaica right now, they're going to know that they're not Jamaican, because even Jamaica has categories for people who are not, or who are mixed, or who are this. And it's not because they're trying to divide. It's just because look at the population of the people, where 90% of the people are African people, and they know this. They look African. So when you put anything else up against that, it's very obvious and it's very simple who's who and what's what. It's very obvious. We make things so difficult sometimes in an effort to unite the world, right? You got black people that talk about this Afro-Asiatic, Asians. I guarantee your ass go over to China right now. Do you think they're gonna look at you and be like, "Oh yes, unity. Oh, yeah, I
Yes.
can acknowledge my black roots." No, they're gonna look at you like you crazy. They're gonna look at, and that's how we gotta look at people like they're crazy. Because there's no way in hell a black person go to China and they're looked at like they're crazy. But if a Chinese person go to Jamaica, they're like, "Oh, out of many one people," and oh, you're Jamaican just like us. That should not be. That should not be a thing. And this conversation. This is the reason why you have to draw lines. You can't, it doesn't mean you're being mean to the people that are not African. It's just, if you're not that, then you're not that. Or if you're mixed, then you're mixed. It's okay. It's okay to say that and not be a bad person or be, you're trying to be mean to the other group of people. It's just very obvious.
What about the black people in India?
In India, you talking about Dravidians?
No,
with the straight hair?
the ones that was brought there as slaves.
Okay, well, if they were brought there as slaves, then I'm not sure how long they've been there as slaves. It's a high percentage. It's a high percentage chance that they've already been sexed out of existence. They may have some African features, but I think, don't they have a term for that in Trinidad? Don't they call them coolies?
And they do the same thing in Guyana. In Guyana,
I'm saying it's very obvious who's who.
No, they're called seedy. They're
Good
called
mix.
seedy.
Well, whatever the term is, they have a term, and they have a term for a reason. Because when you put them up against an African population like Jamaica, or you put them up against in America, if you go to Philly, I mean, you put them up against, they're gonna be like, "Whoa, where are you from? Oh, look at your hair." It's obvious. We make things so difficult sometimes, but it's obvious that when people are mixed, they're mixed. If people are African, they're African. It's very simple.
What about mixed American?
What do you mean mixed American? You mean like a American that has a white parent and a black parent?
No, yeah, mixed Americans that are considered.
What's that mean? What is a mixed American? Define
like
mixed.
a light-skinned American. Black American.
What the hell is that? That doesn't exist.
Isn't he
American is a
African?
nationality, not an ethnicity.
I'm saying.
Sister has not finished, and you're already interrupting. Let her finish.
Yeah, just
I would like to ask the floor once she finishes
if he's considered as an American.
Could we
calm
not
down.
interrupt the sister, please? Let her finish her point. Then I would like to ask the floor, address some points, but please let the.
I was asking a question.
Let her finish her point. Is what he's saying. Let her finish.
Fine.
I want to add some sense too, if I may.
Yeah. So we're waiting for Sister Cheryl to finish, but I gotta tell y'all.
Oh, my bad, y'all. I was talking. The mic was off. Sorry.
I'm just gonna give this prompt a couple more minutes of life. I'm not gonna run on here and run out till 11 p.m. So when you get a chance to speak, you're gonna keep it brief. Else, I'm just gonna cut the mic. All right, Sister Cheryl, finish your thought, please.
Yeah, he said, what about the mixed American? And I asked him to define what is a mixed American. What is that?
Well, let's just assume it's a of two different parenting.
That's what I was thinking.
No. I was going to answer you, but I was interrupted. But what I mean is, you have mixed Americans that are light skinned that for generations, and they are considered black, right? What I'm saying is, these people in India, they have. Some of them have a little mix, and some of them look like us. They've been transferred just like us at the same time. You feel me? So what I'm trying to say is, they're as much as valid. Their Africanness is as much as valid as us.
Okay. Let me give you an example, baby, because I know if you're not from the area, you may not know, but I'm gonna keep this real short. Just because you're light skinned doesn't mean you're mixed. There are light skinned people in Africa that are not mixed, no mixture at all. So I mean, we gotta put things in context a little. Okay, it's because, and then that's why you can't just look at skin color. There's phenotype. Phenotype is very strong. A phenotype in a person is not just their complexion. So you can't just say, "Oh, light skin this and light skin that." My father is light skinned, and we ain't got nothing. Like, we have very good records. Nothing is mixed. There's nothing mixed, but he has the phenotype, and that's the same. And most people, my dad goes into populations of, African people all the time. Can't nobody tell until he open his mouth. Can't nobody tell. So what I'm trying to say is, like, you can't just say light skin. That's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. If you want to say light skin along with this phenotype, then okay, that's different. But you got to be specific. And I'm gonna just leave it there because this topic is crazy long.
Koku, can I go real quick? I'll keep it short.
I want
go
to
ahead.
keep it short.
I'm sorry. Like,
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean. Yeah, I came in on the prompt here with the picture I see here. I'm not speaking against the Afro Americans. If anyone saw that documentary about Henry Louis Gates, he did the thing about the African Mexicans and the history they had there in slavery, to the point where you have the people that we would consider, the light-skinned, white-skinned Mexicans. I forgot the name of the brother's name. He has a statue there, clearly a black man, and they think they have no relation to him due to the Spaniards and stuff like there. So when it comes to that, no, I will not say that these people are black. I want to address the points of. I agree with Sister Cheryl. I agree with this, because it's basically common sense and science, right? The one thing I do want to mention is that I Can Fire was talking about, as well as Sister Cheryl talking about Indian people, right? Because I Can Fire mentioned about the people in South America. The only black people in South America are the Brazilians and the Guyanese people. And the Guyanese people there in Guyana, if you know anything about Guyana, it's black people and East Indian people. No one is fucking confused about who's who.
What about Colombia?
You have the Buck people. They call them Buck people. The Buck people would be the indigenous people. My nanny, I have people in my family. You can go to the bush right now in Guyana and see some Native American people.
What about Colombia?
Everybody know who the Chinaman is and who the coolie boy over there. So I know the black. No one is confused.
What about Colombia?
Why, when we come out of I mean, me.
What about Colombia?
Confused when we.
Are you there? What about Colombia?
I don't know why he keeps talking. I don't understand what the confusion is. No one is confused unless no one goes walk around Guyana. There's people in Guyana that's darker than me. But guess what? No one's gonna call them black. So why are we doing this?
That's a lie. That's a lie.
If you see how you tell me this? I don't tell you what goes on in the Netherlands because I'm not from the Netherlands.
I live in the Netherlands with Suriname people.
All right then. So I'm not talking about the Netherlands. I'm talking about what's in my country.
Dutch Guyana, Suriname people.
You know, I'm Jamaican.
Right? I'm not talking about what's going on.
We're talking about who's black.
I'm talking about within the context.
Guys, let's stop interrupting. Let Kofi Linus playing. Jose will go next, and then we'll. By that time, we'll be moving on to topic number 2. Kofi
before we move on, I would like to have at least 2 minutes close because I
was pretty much done. I don't say anything what goes in the Netherlands or people with Suriname. I'm talking about Guyana, how I grew up. I'm talking about again. In Guyana,
Suriname people, how do they call themselves? Don't they call themselves black? But what I wanted to say, the sense that I asked, minutes ago, I asked for my time to put in some sense.
I wasn't finished.
I wasn't finished.
Jose, I wasn't finished, and I'm not talking about Suriname. I'm talking about Guyana. I'm Guyanese.
We are talking about black people.
Again,
Jose, let his mind. Line is playing for me. Please.
Don't twist my words. We are talking about black people, not about the Netherlands, not about Suriname. We are.
No one was talking to you. You came in
Suriname, black people in the Guyanas, black people in
oh my God,
Trinidad.
Totally irrelevant. Totally irrelevant to what I'm saying.
Kofi, can you
pay attention?
Can I cook? Because
I was about to finish in the next 15 seconds. It wasn't really that.
Sorry.
He interrupted me.
I'm trying to. You could be finishing now, man. Just finish.
All I'm trying to say is
both of you, I asked
when you have. I don't care. Go. Fuck it. I don't care. I'm done. This is bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah, he kept on interrupting.
So I asked before you both forced yourself in. I asked for some time to put in some sense. Remember?
Go ahead, Josie. Yeah, Josie.
Thank you. So I'm going back to I Can Fire and Bacardi making sense, keeping it simple, and I'm going to compare. Yes, I'm going to compare with white folks. Southern Europe, and Eastern Europe are second place Europeans. But one day when they get in trouble, every European is going to get in, ready to die, ready to kill. But we're here like, no, but this, and no, but that, and no, but and then we throw in ignorance as real,
Yeah.
because what the past minute, what I try to say, what I try to add, is that not only Colombia and Brazil is black, and how do people in Guyana call themselves? That has nothing to do with the Netherlands. So that tactic of pushing me into the Netherlands is kind of not good for the conversation. So why I said I live in the Netherlands is why I live in the Netherlands with Suriname people, Dutch Guyana. How do they call themselves? Guess what?
Black.
Black.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, can I want to give a closure on
But,
this.
but hold on 1 second. I'm Jamaican, and Jamaica is teaching Guyana music. So Guyana is the black Guyanese people. They are endorsing Jamaican music right now. They have their own music, dancehall music genre in Guyana. So I don't know where this guy say he come from, but Guyanese people know they are black, and they rock with Jamaicans big time. We cuss online all the time. So I don't know what this guy talking about. We deal with black Guyanese. So whatever he talking about, I don't understand. You feel me?
I want to
But
give less than 2 minute closure, please, on this subject.
Make it
I
1
ask,
minute. Make it one.
all right, very quick. One, the problem here is that people are not listening. They are not wanting to listen because they're subjected to their own bias. Look at what happened on this conversation. The point was Afro-Mexicans, and I would add the Afro descendancy of slavery in Latin America are forgotten communities. And then everybody started throwing, going to Australia, talking about Europe, etc. That clearly shows to us that the Anglo-speaking world is insisting on erasing that that history. Fact of the matter is that if we make a clear distinction, pre the arrival of Europeans and the invasion of Europeans here in the Western Hemisphere, as well as pre everything in the humanity, when first humans started appearing and mobilizing, etc., we have to understand that we have to address that history without the modern terms. Now, if we refer to specifically the last 533 years, and more focus in the last 250 years out of those 533 years here in the Western Hemisphere, aka America, aka North, Central, South, and Caribbean, then we have to recognize that the terminology that we're utilizing also helps us to define what was happening. So this whole nonsensical bullshit of just using black without a nuance only enables the continuing of the white hierarchy in regards of history.
But you're Latino, so you don't like black either. So that's why you have a problem with it.
Again, fuck off, stop interrupting, and listen for once. Because your notion is such a lie. You're lying, and you're not even connecting your brain to the tongue.
Why are you offended by
I am offended because what you just
so
said.
land the plane now, okay? Because now I'm upset now.
I'm sorry.
I come here to have a conversation. I don't need the bullshit that y'all keep. I mean, clearly we are grown people here. We don't need to keep talking over one another. We ain't got to go through all that. And you don't have to run on. Line your plane, make your point, and line your plane.
Yeah. So to land this plane, and we saw with the example of the person who spoke, oh, you're Latino, you hate blacks. that is a complete and utter bullshit. And it clearly shows to us that the Anglo-speaking world in the Western Hemisphere is completely and utterly ignorant, and it's incapable of going beyond hypotheses like these Certima hypotheses that makes no sense. If you want to say Africans came here before the Europeans, go find the anthropological evidence. Don't just state it, do the work. And so far, anthropological evidence tells us that pre-Europeans here, Africans did not arrive here. That's so far what the evidence is telling us. If you find evidence that points to that, great. Let's look at it. But the problem is...
All right, okay.
Yeah.
That's enough now.
Sorry. Point being is...
That's it.
Let's look at the scientific
just stop now. Just stop now before I have to remove you like I did Icon 5. You got to learn to read the room, brother. All y'all got to learn to read the room. Should have been topic number 2 tonight. No, this is not working now. Okay. Hold on a second. Oh, I think no, well, maybe it worked. Should have been topic number 2 says, he thinks sHitler was right. This came with a link that's going to take us to YouTube. Make sure you guys can see my screen. Yeah, so we're going to watch the video and then we'll discuss it.
Hitler may have been right. He talks about preparing for civil war. Now he hopes to establish a whites-only community right here. Eric Orwell has already made headlines with the whites-only community he's now building in Arkansas. Tonight, as part of his ongoing Confronting Hate investigation, our chief investigative reporter Phil Williams uncovers some exclusive new details about this controversial figure and what he has planned for the volunteer state. And Phil, I understand you had some tough questions for this man.
That's right. I had questions about his plans for that whites-only community, questions about his views on Adolf Hitler and the Holocaust, questions about his ties to the white nationalist Patriot Front and his talk of civil war, as well as questions about his upcoming appearance at a white nationalist conference right here in Middle Tennessee.
No Nazis, no KKK, no fascist USA!
We were there last year as anti-fascist protesters raised their voices in opposition to the annual gathering of white nationalists at Montgomery Bell State Park. The American Renaissance Conference is scheduled to return to the park in mid-November.
We have a community for white Americans who value their European ancestry.
Among the speakers is a far-right figure who's recently made headlines around the globe with his plan to create a whites-only community in northeastern Arkansas.
Of course, we're concerned about the ability of white Americans to have their own communities in the future, and I think this is a discussion that needs to happen.
Eric Orwell told me he wants to test federal fair housing laws, which is why he created a group called Return to the Land as a private membership association, in other words, a private club, with plans to create other whites-only communities.
Right now, there are a few hot spots that we're honing in on: Idaho, Tennessee, the Ozarks.
You say Tennessee?
Yeah, that's one of those hot spots.
And where in Tennessee are you looking at?
A few different locations, eastern Tennessee, central Tennessee. So I'm not going to give away specific zip codes or anything.
His website shows a map that includes the eastern part of Middle Tennessee and East Tennessee that make up Appalachia, which would include Jackson County, where Christian nationalists are also hoping to establish their own community, giving some of the same reasons Orwell gives for choosing the region.
But Appalachia in general has a lot of founding stock Americans who are very rooted to the land here, you know? People who came over more recently might not have that very deep sense of white American identity.
We have to look for ways where we can securely have our own territory that is actually ours.
Presenting himself as a thoughtful person, Eric Orwell chooses his words carefully when describing his personal beliefs. How do you describe yourself? Are you a white supremacist, white nationalist, neo-Nazi, any of the above?
None of the above. I'm a white identitarian. I think that ethnic identity, racial and ethnic identity, is a big part of who you are.
While portraying himself as someone mainly interested in preserving white heritage, Orwell has developed a close relationship with the white nationalist Patriot Front, which wants to turn the U.S. into an ethno-state for whites only. What is your relationship with the Patriot Front?
I believe that they are good faith actors. I think their ambitions for seeing political change are noble, even if I don't completely agree with their strategy or perhaps ultimate objective.
But photos posted by Patriot Front show Orwell was one of the speakers recently at the group's first national conference alongside neo-Nazi Robert Rundo. This is Rundo attacking a counter-protester at a Trump rally in 2017. And here at the Patriot Front conference, that's Rundo on the left. To the right is Orwell giving the fist over heart salute.
Life, liberty, victory!
The official salute of Patriot Front. You had a post on X on September 15th that said folks are willing to call for violence but unwilling to join one of the few groups on our side that know how to organize and deploy men. Who is that group that you were referring to?
I was indirectly referring to Patriot Front.
As our News Channel 5 investigation has revealed, Patriot Front has built a compound in East Tennessee where it trains men to fight, although it claims it's just a way for them to develop themselves personally. Patriot Front does a lot of training for hand-to-hand combat. Do you think they're in a position, want to even prepare for battle for civil war?
Well, I'm not against preparing for civil war because it may happen. Not of our choosing.
Orwell has argued that this iconic photo of U.S. Marshals escorting 6-year-old Ruby Bridges as she integrated a Louisiana school represents what he calls the immorality of forced integration.
And what they did was they chose one social model and said, you're all going to live this way. And it just wasn't really a democratic process.
Meaning the white people didn't get their way?
Yeah, the Democratic majority, if they don't get their way, that's undemocratic. A Jewish journalist released an article today attacking my character, trying to smear me.
Well, he insists he's not anti-Semitic after a news report revealed that he and his ex-wife had once starred in a series of live-streamed porn videos. Orwell seemed to think that one of the reporter's ethnic backgrounds had something to do with it. You kept referring to it as the Jewish reporter or the Jewish journalist. And I wasn't sure why.
We're Jewish.
What does that have to do with the fact?
The fact is that Gentile journalists weren't coming after me for having a white neighborhood. Jewish journalists were.
Then there was this post where another person on X wrote, I do not blame all the Jews for everything. Don't hate Jews for being Jews. Orwell responded, have you considered that you might not know enough about Jews yet?
I don't think that's a direct quote. And it could be a fake account. Yeah,
it is.
Show me.
This is off of your X account.
Yeah, I didn't mean to insinuate that you should hate Jews for being Jews. Blaming Jews for everything. I may have been a bit tongue-in-cheek there.
And there's a post where he appeared to defend Adolf Hitler, saying, interesting that you don't even acknowledge the alleged Jewish wrongdoing or what punishment that would merit if true. Do you believe that the Jews had it coming from Hitler?
Had it coming? I mean, it's not my place to judge.
It seems to me that saying there is no reason at all to murder 6 million Jews is an easy answer.
Yeah, well, I don't know that 6 million Jews were murdered. I don't know that. We can have dozens of these communities within the next 5 years. We can have hundreds of them if we keep the momentum up.
As for his hopes to establish whites-only communities, Orwell says he thinks Donald Trump's administration provides the best hope to establish a new legal precedent.
I don't know if he personally would condone what we're doing, but I think he's enough of a true conservative that he would believe that we have the right to do it.
And Orwell tells me he's getting lots of support for his idea, enough so that he has been able to quit his job and focus on this project full time. Asked if any of that money is coming from the millionaires or billionaires who are trying to re-engineer American society, he claimed he did not know for sure, although he added that he is getting some, what he described as very large donations. Rory?
Phil, thank you. We know you're going to keep watching this. This is one of many investigations Phil has produced in the last 2 years.
That's a very interesting piece. When I was watching it, I thought a couple of things you guys in the chat had to say. Well, look at the cowardice there. That was Jose. Right? Haha, cowards, he says. Because when they hit him with the Jewish question, he backed his ass right up off of that, right? But I was also thinking, man, they built this thing in Tennessee. And I'm thinking, man, how much land is there in Tennessee, for example, or in the rural South, for that matter, that can be incorporated and turned into black towns? And, you know, how come our people, and I know some of our people do it from time to time. You'll hear a story about a family who bought, 10 acres of land or something and made it a family property and stuff like that. I remember some years ago, there was a group who incorporated a town somewhere in Georgia, I think, like in rural Georgia. So it can be done. And then Trigger asks a question, do you think this is bad news for the idea of a new Africa? And that's exactly how I felt when I saw them showing that land and mentioning that they built this thing in Tennessee. I'm like, wow, if you have these guys taking root and doing the things that we should have done, that Black America should have done, get this land, clear it, build on it, and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's bad news for that. RBG said he don't think that town would last 10 years. That's possible, but RBG, expand on that a little bit more.
I mean, I just think that, you know what I'm saying, it's one big they're just trying to recruit, people's people, white people's white folks. I mean, there's a whole, you know what I'm saying, people have all kinds of perspectives. You know what I'm saying? If it were so, there would be tons of these towns. Like I said, it's just another sundown town rebranding. You know what I'm saying? They already have majority white towns in this country where you if you black, you probably shouldn't be walking around the streets. We know. So like it's just a rebranding of the whole sundown town thing. That's all it is. I just don't see. I mean, white people's white people, but how many white people like just out here just like, I'm just going to go, and you know what I'm saying, like, that shit don't pan out, because people going to want another job. They're going to cross the country. If they can cross the country to move there, they're going to find some money somewhere else. The economy's crazy. So I mean, man, 10 years, maybe 20. But I mean, it's gonna fizzle out, man. It's whatever thunder that they spit now is just, man. I don't get. I see it. I see a lot of huffing and puffing, and white people need and heritage of people don't know where the fuck they come from. They don't know they tree. There's a lot of black people in Europe, you know what I'm saying, not that long ago. I mean, there's a lot of black people. Some people say that a lot of the nobility in like the 19th century and all that was black people. You know what I'm saying? Because black people was up in Africa, you know what I'm saying? They had basically African monarchs, you know what I'm saying? African nobles, black people. So I hear all this. I do. You know what I'm saying? You just focus on the actual, track record of towns where it's basically 95% white, 98% white. You know what I'm saying? Maybe someone a black person who just happens to be on the outskirts of town or something like that, and you know what I'm saying, he goofy with it, and they let him be goofy with it, and you know what I'm saying, he a Vic. But like, focus on the places where it's already things, you know what I'm saying, all this, you know what I'm saying, I don't care about that. It ain't nothing new. People build towns, you know what I'm saying, mostly white people, and they gonna do what white folks do. I mean, if it's like that, white people are gonna be on their white shit. So it's just avoid that place. You know what I'm saying? Go skirt around town. You don't gotta go somewhere where you're not wanted. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah, y'all did so much back and forth in the first topic. I forgot. I've now forgotten what Black Steel sounds like. So Black Steel, what's your thoughts on this guy thinking sHitler was right?
I'm deeply hurt by that, Coco. That you forgot what I sound like. I think I'm gonna go cry in the car when I get done with the podcast. But but let me say this, right? I'm gonna take my time because y'all took y'all time with that last prompt. So I'm gonna take my time, goddamn it. Okay, so couple things. If these white people would just stay in their little white enclave, right, and just live their little happy white lives and raise their little happy white children, you know what? They could have stayed in Europe for that. It's so funny to me, this whole idea of return to the land after your ancestors came here and genocided the indigenous population who had been on that land. Now all of a sudden you want to return to the land. Why don't you go back to Europe? Why don't you go back to England or France or whatever province of Germany your cracking ancestors came from? But no, you want to find. Okay, I've been to that part of Tennessee. There was a we went on vacation a couple years ago. Shout out to the Hilton resorts. They put a resort in a former sundown town. It's a place called Crossville, Tennessee. My son called it Cross Burningville because when we went there, there were no black people in this town to the point to where they looked at us funny when we were in the grocery store, that they had never seen a black person before. And maybe you didn't, whatever, who cares? Who cares, right? But the idea that these white people are going to stay in their town, right? The European cultural ideology will not allow them to just exist in their town. This town will spread. They will come into conflict with other people, white and non-white, because the European ideology needs someone to be the cultural other. They need someone to scapegoat that their problems are with, right? Bringing it back to what Hitler, he's talking about is Hitler, right? So the Jewish people had been used as a scapegoat in Europe for centuries. So during the Black Death in the 14th century, the idea was that, oh, the reason we're getting sick is because the Jews are poisoning the wells. No, y'all motherfuckers are dirty and you don't wash your asses, and now you got fleas. That's how you got the plague. But what they did, they blamed the Jewish people in Europe and Germany and in France and whatnot. So they would regularly burn Jewish communities and burn and kill Jewish people because that was a scapegoat for them to justify, oh, this is happening to us. Hitler's problem with the Jews is because he felt that Germany, after the First World War, was not defeated on the battlefield. He felt that Germany was defeated at the peace negotiations in the Treaty of Versailles. So he felt that the Jewish population of Germany acted as a fifth column to betray the German people and bring in what they call Bolshevism, also known as communism, because of course Karl Marx was Jewish. There was a strong communist party in Germany at the time. So when the German economy hit rock bottom in the years after the First World War, Hitler comes to power. Yeah, it's all the Jews' fault. They're the reason we lost the war. We were never defeated. In fact, Hitler fought in the First World War. He was injured in a gas attack, and he had to, he was in the hospital recuperating. He finds out Germany surrenders. He's like, "What the fuck? What you mean Germany surrendered? We were winning." But in his mind, they were winning. But it's an easy way to blame your own cultural failings. We can see that in the United States right now. When the American economy is tanking, as it is right now, who's getting the blame? It's the immigrants, it's the Mexicans, it's the illegals, because European culture requires I think Francis, as I remember Anis said in Murugu, they require a cultural other. The European culture produces a lot of rage and a lot of anger, right? And if that anger is not turned against somebody, white people will destroy themselves. So they're not going to build these little white enclaves in the mountains in Tennessee and farm and fish and have horseshoe games and all that other stuff. No, that European aggression will seek to find somebody. So to real black gentleman's point, if they don't have anybody to vent their aggression on, in 10 years they're done. If that, 10 years is stretching, right? But again, he said he wants to build other communities. These communities will come into conflict, right, with other non-white people groups, be it Latinos, be it Native Americans, but 9 times out of 10, it's going to be black people. It's going to be black people because the United States is a dying empire, and now we're faced with what I would consider to be the threat of balkanization. For those who might not be what we're referring to, is when a larger nation breaks apart and forms into smaller entities, right? What happens when you have a state like Texas, right, that is already ran by a white supremacist, racist governor? A state like Florida, a state, a lot of these Bible Belt, Black Belt states fall into, as America begins to fall apart, the federal government, is not able to enforce the law, which is going to happen sooner rather than later, I believe, especially with this current administration. But these white people are now, they're gathering behind a white identity, and they come from the idea that the white person is oppressed, right? The white man will soon be a minority in the United States, on the continent that our forefathers fought and bled for, quote unquote, right? And this troubles them because they want to be able to maintain their dominance, and they don't want a United States that is no longer a majority white nation. Although white people have never needed to maintain a majority to have power. Look at South Africa, look at Rhodesia. But even so, this idea that, and it is true that the birth rate of white people has gone down, but the birth rate of most people especially in the Western world has gone down because of the cost of living. Again, they're blaming Jews and black people for the great replacement, or whatever they call it the great replacement. But again, the true source of their problem is never correctly identified until it's too late. So we're talking about late stage capitalism that has commodified everything and has increased the cost of living to the point where people can't afford food, people can barely afford housing, and people don't want to have kids in that environment. But instead of correctly identifying capitalism as their enemy, no, it's the Jews, it's the niggers, right? I believe it was Winston Churchill. He said something I always like. I don't care for him, but I like his quote. He said, you can always count on Americans to do the right thing after they've tried everything else. So white people, what they're going to do, they're going to slaughter in this, and I'm glad Trigger had to mention the Turner Diaries. White people, these racists, these identity extremists, these Project Europa, whatever the hell they call themselves, they're going to slaughter the whoever they can get closest to them. They're going to go after black people, they're going after immigrants, and then eventually they'll finally get to the true source of their problems. Unless we organize and we fight back, we have to understand this type of thinking is an existential threat. You don't debate it, you don't argue the point. Just make sure your weapons are close. You got you some ammo, because if this type of thinking is allowed to thrive, again, he says he wants to test the boundaries of the Fair Housing Act. We want to see just how far he can go. And to be honest, black people don't really want to live around these crackers. That's not when you wake up in the morning. I can't wait to live around white people. We want to live in nice homes. We want to live in safe neighborhoods. We want our kids to be able to go outside and play without, worrying about being threatened. That's what we really want. We don't have any desire to live around white people like that. But just overall, yeah, dude is you got to be ready. You got to be ready. He's nothing more than white supremacist. You can use all the fancy words and colorful language he wants to use. It's just, at the end of the day, a cracker is a cracker is a cracker. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Good stuff, Black Steel. Let me hear from Joe next.
Yeah, Jose, I put you to sleep. My bad, dang.
Yes. No. I was zoomed in, and I was looking for the microphone button. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful analysis, and that's what I spotted too. The European is going to on his own. He's going to destroy himself. Look at them in Europe. I mean, the Eastern Europeans against the Western Northwestern Europeans against the Southern Europeans are quiet now. For a long time because they are broke as you know what I'm saying. So they are quiet, but the Eastern Europeans very critical against the source of the cancer, right? But they are just as cancerous, right? White only, Catholic, Polish motherfuckers being rough at the border with White Russia because Syrians and Afghans have found a route into the EU by that way, etc. And the Hungarian dude. Some of these, and recently this week, the two petrol stations in two Eastern European countries were attacked, and they are suspecting Poland. Poland wants war with Russia, but they shitting in their pants because Russia is not going to hold back with them. It won't be the first time that Poland betrays them, and Russia is the Putin's finger is like an inch from the button. Like, say something, nigga. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, guys, let's step aside and let them fix them. Just step aside if you don't want to stay in Africa or in Brazil or wherever you deem to be aside, but step aside, let them handle each other. It will happen. Thank you. Wait. On the topic, is Hitler right? And yeah, white folks. Uh, I've spotted something on my X profile. It says I'm in the Netherlands, and I spotted some type of FBA shit, like white Americans, Euro Americans, uh, uh, talking to Europeans the same way as FBA speaks of other black folks, like you're weak and we beat you and that type of stuff. So just let them. They are not. Look, they colonized our nations, right? And our nations is a mess. That's their system. That's their education, their politics, their logistic structure, etc. And look at their nations with all the wealth that they stole. They still fail. Why? Because they organized their nations just as they organized our nations. You understand? Let it happen. These apes need a, 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 a couple of 10,000 of years to get where us humans are and have been. So, yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that, Joe. Say, let's have from Real Black. Sorry, let's have from Icon Fire. But Icon Fire, stick to the topic for me, please.
Yeah, I always stick to the topic, Quaco. All right, listen. Um, um, Quaco, Guana, me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Um, 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 if it wasn't for World War II, wouldn't we still be under British rule?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
yeah, because it's like it's the weakening of the British Empire because of World War II, why we gain power enough to fight for um independence. The British relented because of their weakness. You feel me? We have the what they call it, the Windrush generation, who our families who went to England to build it in the 1950s and 60s. You right? So so technically technically Hitler gave us independence. Will you say that?
That's quite a stretch. That's quite a
I would
stretch.
say you was a wild boy. You was a
That's
wild boy.
quite a stretch.
Yo, what is going on right now?
Bruh, that's quite
What?
a stretch. Well, you stretching like Mr. Fantastic right now. What?
Y'all are hilarious. Oh my god.
Dude, that's even a
Oh
further
my god.
stretch than the expansion of the universe, man. I don't know how the hell you reached that conclusion.
Well, I haven't finished. You feel me? And I stand with my word because Africa in general what got independence because the France and Britain and Germany, they were all dominating Africa in World War II. And after World War II, because Hitler blew them apart, invaded France, invaded England, and ripped them apart even though he lost, it is because of him. It is because of Hitler why we are free.
Actually,
What is
that's
going on right now?
nonsensical.
I can fire. Let me say this, bro. That's so. Listen,
But
it's not.
don't interrupt me. I ain't finished. Have some respect. I ain't finished. But all right,
Unbelievable.
listen,
Okay, go ahead. You got it.
listen what I'm saying. Listen what I'm saying. I ain't all right. Fine. Not it's not that. And I'm gonna jump off that.
I hear
There's
you.
a rift. There's a rift between white people and the small hats. I refer to them as them or they. You feel me? Now listen. They in earlier times were were got the opportunity to keep the goal of a lot of European kings. That's in the maybe fourth century, fifth century, all that straight up to now. Okay, so what they did is they formulated banking systems and they sent their people in France, Germany, England, and these regions, and they um acquired the major banking systems in these countries. That's what this dude is talking about of their conspiracy to in World War I. You feel me? And that's what caused World War II. And also, what I'm trying to say is they in America is the banking system. They are IMF and they are the World Bank. That's them. You feel me? So what's the rift in America is they are sucking the money away, and the whites of America don't like that. So that's what's causing the rift because they have actually come to own America. You feel me? That's them. So a lot of white people feel powerless. And that's what you hear the animosity. Now all of them is white, but they are a tribe. They're a Jew tribe and they're French tribe, Spanish tribe, all of these are different tribes. You feel me? So these white people who combine together as whites, they are left out a lot out of the power access in terms of finance by Chase Bank and the IMF, and the IMF owned the federal You wouldn't even know the money part of America is them that really controlling it. You feel me? So that's what's going on, and that's why um so much respect have to be given to them by the government. You feel me? Because they can pull strings. You feel me? And so
Icon, icon,
with that,
icon, icon. You
yeah,
take a long time to get there, brother. You take a long time to get there, but you know what? I on your road. I on your road with that argument. That argument, not the Hitler argument, but I on your road. I on your road.
yeah, yeah, but listen, I'm not on nobody's side. I'm on black people's side. I'm just trying to show you what it's the same thing. It's the same thing. They were holding that over Hitler finance. You feel me? It's the same thing. That's what caused it. Finance. You feel me? And that's what's going on here. Why their own color people is fighting. So you would wonder why are the white supremacists behaving like that? And that's the reason. If you didn't know, you feel me? But that's why they talking that way. That like, oh, he was good because he was torturing them. You understand? But
Can I
Appreciate
go?
that.
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, yeah.
Appreciate that. I can fire. Let me. You know what? Since Buana asked, I was gonna go to Sister Cheryl, but Buana, go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to build on the second point Icon Fire made, and I thought that Black Steel was going to get it, but Black Steel didn't see it. My question is, why is a company that is controlled and run, ABC, controlled and run by the small hats, platforming a white supremacist? Why would they do that? If it's only to they trying the small hats are trying to consolidate power in the United States. So when you see a video like this, right? Most people going because people are asking the question, why is it that the small arts in the United States are getting so much legislation on their behalf? If you say anything, what you see is obvious within America. You say, well, everything is anti-Semitic. If you say the wrongs that they do, especially with Netanyahu committing the genocide, they say anti-Semitic. They are funding the healthcare program right now in Israel, where many Americans can't get proper health care and medical issues addressed. So there must be a justification for it. So you have to create a boogeyman. So this is a boogeyman to justify all the legislation that's coming on their behalf. The most vulnerable people in the United States are not the Jewish community. The Jewish community have enough power within the American system because of what Icon Fire just said, because the banking system and all these things, they could get their own Mossad and IDF to protect them if they feel threatened. If they feel threatened. So legislation in America should be towards the most vulnerable people in America. I don't think that's the Jews. I think you have black people who are vulnerable, where you should have special legislation for that group of people. The Indian community, Indian feathers, not dots, should have legislation to protect them. So when you have these boogeyman groups, because these people are being scapegoated, whether they know it or not, these dumb white boys, to create legislation and consolidate power within the United States. Because ABC wouldn't platform a person like there are many enclaves in America, many. Utah, North Dakota, South Dakota, all over the United States of America. Mar-a-Lago, where you could go and live exclusively without even seeing a black person. Matter of fact, most of these people are going to these communities, buy Netflix, and then watch Menace to Society because they like to watch this and they entertained by our misery. You know what I mean? So, so that's not the issue of him building a little small town. There's many small towns in America where they never even seen a black person or a non-white person before. So that's not the issue of him building a town. What they are trying to do is create a boogeyman to justify all the legislation that's coming down the pipeline in reference to this small community enclave of people. So they need to be protected. They need to be protected. The Muslims, they are. Do you know what they're doing to Mamdani right now in New York City? And the crazy shit they saying about him, the Muslim community is threatened. Is threatening threatening in NYC right now. You know, more so, and they are Semitic people, more so than the Jewish community who wield all the power because of the banking system. So for me, I look at this as a hit piece. This shouldn't be an argument whether Hitler was right or wrong or whatever. This is what the media is trying to create a narrative, the scapegoat to consolidate power. That's how I see this. I don't know how the other brothers see it, but I thought that Black Steel would have catch that. You know what I mean? But I know his focus was on the prompt. But if you ask yourself some fundamental questions, why would ABC, a controlled corporation run by a Jewish community, platform this nonsense? Where everywhere, most places in America are enclaves where there are no Black people whatsoever. I mean, and this guy don't have no money. Mar-a-Lago have real money, where Black people can't go, and the only Black people or Mexican or Latino people who go inside them areas are people who clean up the yard and thing. And after they clean, they have to go back where they come from. So it's not an issue about building a Black all white community that already exists. The idea is to consolidate power by the small hats. That's how I view this. That's why on Icon Fire's second argument, when he started getting into the banking system and who controls things and runs and governs America, I understand that. I understand that. You know, but I'll just leave it there just to be brief. I just wanted to point that out because he wasn't so far off on that second argument. But I'll just leave it there.
Appreciate that, Juana. Step from Sister Cheryl next on this one.
Can I be honest with everybody? Like sometimes when it comes to like conversations like this, I get very confused. Like I don't know, like with white, like we try to say, oh, this white group, and then there's this white group. I think the lines blend so much for me. Like I get so confused with Jewish, and then you saying these white factions that agree with Hitler. Like they all seem in America. They they just seem the same to me. Maybe that's just my ignorance, but I kind of like when someone brought up that there always has to be like a cultural other. I can't remember who said that, but whoever said that and made that analysis, that was pretty much everything that I was thinking. Like I was, because I'm thinking like, yes, there are white people in white communities. They have their communities, but they're not all ideologically aligned. And it's just, and when you see white people that are trying to separate themselves, trying to do what Hitler like aspired to do, to have a somewhat of as much of a pure race as they possibly can, is because they're trying to gather a whole bunch of white people who think the same. So ideologically, through and through, they don't want no white person that's gonna be buddy buddy with a Mexican or a buddy buddy with a black person or anything that's not white. They are true quintessential white nationalism. They want to be able to have free range to do whatever they want to do. You know, if they feel like they want to, you know, they get the desire, the urge to hang a black person, they want to just be able to do it and do it off grid. They that's pretty much. It's not really for much for me to say because um, everything's been said. So I just wanted to make that point. Is like I just get confused sometimes with the separation of the Jewish and the like when white people say, oh, it's the Jews. Like that just seems like a huge distraction for black people, and it's just like they're not like too far removed from each other. They just have different ideologies, and one wants to go this way, and the other one wants to go that way. But at the end of the day, it's bad news for us either way. And you know, I just think about all the black people in the United States that it's like a hanging. I know it's not like mainstream or anything, but there's like a black person being hanged like every week, and they always rule it a suicide. So I guess that's what I'm more focused on in terms of white people nationalizing and doing all this stuff, and stuff like that. So I mean, I don't know. Well, what do you guys think?
Well, sure.
Yeah, I agree.
I
I
agree, and
agree
I
with
go ahead, Coco.
sorry,
I'm
Black.
sorry.
So let me just quickly say this. I agree with you 100%. But that doesn't mean I disagree with Buana and them either, who came before you. I think it's all true. I think that the idea of black folks separating out, and I know Bakari says this a lot too. The idea of black folks separating out white folks, I think that's nonsense. Because yeah, I think it's nonsense because historically, when you look at the Jewish person, those guys were heavy in the money game, which was heavy in slavery and all that kind of stuff. So I don't really separate them out. They're all white folks. They're all enemies to me. But if you decide to have the conversation of the nuances of then what Buana was saying, and Icon and Black Steel was all true. You know what I mean? If you decide to indulge in that. But for the most part, I think black folks should just look at all these people as their enemy and keep it moving. Black Steel, go ahead.
I was gonna say really quickly. The reason why we look at it is because we got to find things we can exploit, right? The enemy of my enemy can sometimes still be my enemy. But sometimes we tend to think of white people as some sort of unified force, and they're not. And I think our people have made many gains by playing off one white enemy against another. You know, and I think that's very strategic sometimes. I think sometimes we forget about strategy. Black people have been losing for so long, we don't know what winning is like. And that's you have to be able to strategize. Like, you know, yeah, these white people don't like them white people, but you know, they don't like us, but they hate them other white people more. How can we benefit from that? How can we use that to our advantage? So I think understanding these differences is very important, even historically. Um, just for an example, many African people would run away to Spanish Florida during slave period. Now, Spain was no friend of black people. The British weren't any friend of black people, but Spain hated Britain more than they hated enslaving black people at the time. We can kind of figure out some ways we can use this to our advantage. So all I'm saying is that by knowing these things, we can know which groups to play off of each other. Because you know who does that? White people do that. White people are very skilled at learning which groups have arguments with other groups, and they're able to divide and conquer and use that to a strategy. Now it's time that we know. I understand a cracker is a cracker is a cracker, but you know, why is it that these Cajuns don't like these, you know, these hillbillies? Why can we use that to our advantage? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I get that too. That's not a bad point. I'll just quickly say that ultimately, this is just my feelings right now. Ultimately, one group of white folks ain't gonna really the entirety of white folks ain't gonna see one group lose in a strategy like that, right? I think at the end of the day, they're gonna still band together against black. That's just my take on it. But Ditso, what's your take on all of it?
Oh boy.
And be kind of brief for me.
I'm gonna go quick and fast, so please no interruptions. Number one, this Orwell is an idiot buffoon whose words are easily disconstructed by indicating that Orwell represents the complete and utter buffoonery and ignorance of the white man. It clearly shows to us that this guy is just following on the footsteps of segregation, of hate, and everything that is un-American in every sense of the way. He's a traitor and he's a terrorist, and he should be treated as a criminal. That is the bottom line. Now, I wanted to address real quickly the words of Icahn. Unfortunately, Icahn went off a little bit of subject, but matter of fact, the era of independence and the change of European hegemonic started in the Western Hemisphere, and particularly from the era of, I would say, roughly 1776 to 1826, 50 years. By that time frame, Europe lost 96% of the colonies that were here in the Western Hemisphere. On that time, only technically two countries in Africa became independent, which were Libya in 1848 and South Africa in 1910. And then post-World War II, that's when the majority of independence started hitting Africa and Asia almost simultaneously. That being said, the rest of the nonsensical argument provided by Eakin, I'm not attacking you, Eakin, I'm attacking the argument. And the argument in itself is that it's all over the place, no understanding of the timeline of the historical events and how they influence one another. In fact, World War One, it started because Serbia wanted independence from the Austro-Hungary Empire, where those ideas of independence came from. Now, coming back to subject of this Orwell idiot, in order to destroy that idiot, you have to understand, and you just go to his page, YouTube page, and you'll see that he calls himself a Christian Platonism. He follows the Christian Platonism, and in order to understand that, you have to understand how Plato has influenced Christianity, which is an interesting conversation in and of itself. And I could have it for hours. But anyhow, the point being here is that the so-called white man and the gringo-centric white man from the Western Hemisphere, the Anglo-speaking, if the problems of identity in the Black community are profound because of the history that we carry, as well as indigenous ones, the white man is completely lost. They don't have an identity here in the Western Hemisphere. They're just an amalgamation of the idiocy that they don't know where the hell they're standing on in that sense. And once you attack that, you break the white man. You break them entirely. But unfortunately, in order to do so, you need to have an education, and you need to have a correct sense of education. And what that correct sense of education is understanding the timeline, the chronological timeline, the anthropological evidence, and everything that is based on of that. We can't follow people like Sertima, who tried to present hypothesis, but his hypothesis fell on his face because he never actually did the work of proving it. And at the same time, we can identify the bullshitters of the white man because, like Sertima, they present hypotheses that they never fucking prove. So the bottom line on this sense is this type of buffoons, loudmouth gringos who have no idea what the hell they're talking about, they're enemies of freedom and liberty. And as such, they should be treated with the harshest methods possible. Destroy their beliefs, destroy their identity, and make them face how stupid they are.
Appreciate that, did so. Me personally, I wouldn't attack Dr. Van Sertima. His theory might need some more evidence, sure, but I won't ever say anything he said is idiocy or anything of that nature. With that said, man, I know you've been waiting a while to hear what everyone else had to say.
Could I address
I got someone. I have someone who's been waiting to speak for a while now. After that, we can hear from Iken. But Bakari, what say you to everything you heard so far?
I'm gonna speak on the prompt. Was Hitler right? Shit, man. Maybe he was right to him. I don't know. That ain't about them white people fighting. Was he right? Maybe. Could be not. Can't say. But that video showed a lot, right? About them, how they train in the fight. I've asked people several times, man, who's out here taking self-defense courses, right? See, fuck Hitler. He dead. What they were talking about is going on right now. and they want to attack us, right? So if Hitler was right, like I said, I don't know. But are we taking self-defense courses? Are we training? And when we say, I saw what would they attack one another? Yes, because they already went into an all-white town. One of them did, and the all-white town didn't want the Christian.
Did we lose Barbacari or is it just me?
We lost him. I don't hear him.
Yeah, I lost him. I don't hear him.
Lost him.
All right. Icon until Barbacari comes back. Icon, and then whoever else needs to speak after that.
Yes. Yeah, my brother referred to me, but I have time for
Hey,
him and all that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry about that, man. But what I was saying is what they're doing, right? So when it comes to black people talking about the Jews, for the most part, like our black people have taken on a white nationalist mindset. They're gonna blame everything Jew, 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 Jew. Those people worked together during slavery. Jews, you got black people that was enslaved by Jews. Jews were the shipbuilders for those same white nationalists. They did the insurance for those same white nationalists. They did all of that. But we have taken on the mindset of white nationalists about the Jews. We took on their mindset. We started using the great replacement theory. Oh, they're bringing people here to replace us. We, when I say we have become, and maybe Kofi them right. Maybe we are more related to the Europeans than we are to other black people because we have taken on their mindset so much. So much. Well, we just say everything that they say. It's a so-called, and I thought it was, and I don't deal with these folks no more. It was a so-called black revolutionary group, allegedly. He gonna hook up with the white nationalists because they gonna help him fight the Jews. I'm like, what the hell wrong? What's wrong with us? We have taken on their mindset. I don't separate these white folks because they're gonna always work together. And if we think just Jews own everything, own all the news networks, and if you don't think no other white people got getting that money and have propped that up, man, we out our damn mind. I have given a couple of documentaries that we could watch. This going to RBG when he said these things won't last. I've said a couple documentaries before that we could watch. Then you go look these things up and it's true. They are putting money, these white folks, these Jews, they are putting money into these places. As of 2023, they had raised right at $2 billion for projects like the dude in Arkansas is doing, because that was in Arkansas, and he's taking it to Tennessee. They are putting money there. So they will fight each other because the white, like I said, the white people that don't want us don't necessarily, and I don't want them either, don't necessarily want to be with them. So it was one white town that have already told the white Christian nationalists that y'all can't buy no land here, and they refused to in Tennessee, and they refused to sell them land. But I'm not going to sit here and separate and act like Jews is all the problems to the world when you can look and see what these other white folks have done historically to black people, just like the Jews. We'll let those white people off the hook and just say Jew did this and the Jew did that and the Jew control this and the Jew control that. Yeah, the Jew have control over certain things, and so do those other white people have control over certain things, and they are all working together to keep black people at the bottom. They're all working together to keep us at the bottom, and we have some of our people that have joined forces with them. So for me, the video wasn't even about whether Hitler was right. The video was about, are we seeing what they're doing and we know they want to attack, and what's going to be our plan? Are we going to start training? I've been telling people I take boxing for training black women, learn to box, learn some self-defense. I've asked people, have you been taking pepper spray training. All this stuff, for some people, they want to kill us. All this stuff will be needed. We can get a gun and a bullet, but what you gonna hit with your gun and your bullet if you ain't out training? I was talking to Koku about if anybody live close to a paintball where you go play paintball, use paintball to have strategy to defend yourself, because that's what it's designed for. Unfortunately, we don't own the land 90% of the time where we can go, where we can do paintball. But I've been talking to some folks here, and they ain't no multi-millionaires, but we got a little money, and we trying to get us some land so we can have more access to training in certain things. So for me, fuck the Jews, pardon my French, fuck the Jews, fuck the white nationalists, the Christian nationalists. They all in the same damn boat to me, because when the shit hit the fan, they all want to destroy us. And on that note, I yield the mic.
Well said, Brother Bakari. Yeah, that paintball thing, I meant to. Actually, I tried looking up like a YouTube footage of militarism with black folks doing paintball. But all I could find is white folks doing paintball, running military drills, and all kind of stuff. We could be using that type of activity ourselves. I know Ike want to add something, and then whoever else wants to speak, we're gonna end this in a few minutes, and I can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, man. Listen, in 1945 to 1947, that was the end of World War II. 10 years later, 1957, Ghana got independence. That's 10 years after World War II. So what is the what could be what else could be? I mean, you're talking about a strong empire such as Britain, who just earlier a few, maybe not even 100 years, they invaded Ghana. You feel me? And stole things from Ghana. Not even 100 years before that. So what I'm trying to say is none of them was ready to give up no power. None of them. So in the Caribbean in 1947, all of us was under direct British rule. Guadeloupe and Martinique is still under direct French rule today. So what I'm trying to say to you is 10 years after 1947, Ghana got independence, and then everybody else followed suit and got independence, including in the Caribbean. You feel me? So that just is telling me that, or technically, it is because of World War II why so much British Empire, so much colonies of the British Empire got free. You feel me? And we were exited from direct colonization, and therefore we ended up in neo-colonization. When it comes to the white supremacists, I kind of like that dude on the I like him, because if it wasn't, if that, these type of people will make it possible for black people to maybe gain a state or a couple states for their self. You see me? Because if you want your area, you feel me? Then black people supposed to be designated or designate themselves an area. You feel me? And of course it may be fuss and fight, but that would be good for black people to have their space, and they have their space. So that's how I see it. Like it's might be bad, but sometime it might be turn out good. So that's where I see that.
All
Okay.
right. I'm sorry. Were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing I wanted, there's a quote that says correlation does not imply causation. What that means is that just because two things might be related, it doesn't necessarily mean that one causes the other, right? So I agree that in the wake of World War II, many African nations were able to get independence, as well as India and so forth. However, that ignores the work that was being done prior to World War I and World War II. The first Pan-African Congress, I think it was like 1909. So African people had been moving towards independence for before even the first World War.
But you can't look at it that
Hold on.
way.
Let me cook. I'm almost done. All right. I'm not gonna
But
be that
you
long.
can't make
I'm
it
not
look
gonna be
that
that
way.
long, brother. Hold on. Now you said you didn't want to interrupt you. All right. So what I'm saying is that these people have already working to it. But to my point, what I was saying earlier, right? Black people using strategy. They use the strategy of World War One as a World War II breaking out. Not only that, but we often forget about the Japanese because the Japanese inflicted the greatest defeat on the British Empire ever. Not the Germans, the Japanese. But we would never say, oh, we were taking advantage of Japan's, But what happened is that this we were organized, we were strategic, and we took advantage of a moment that was in history to gain our freedom. Hitler had nothing to do with it. It was us who took advantage of that moment because had we not been organized, had we not been strategic, right, that moment of history would have passed us by, and we'd still be enslaved. We'd still be colonized. But so I don't want to give a white man credit for nothing black people do. But we took advantage.
Can I refer to you something? Hold on. Can I refer to you something right now? Right now, a lot of African countries are even freeing up themselves even more. It's because of Russia. I'm not saying that Africans are not working. I'm not saying that we over here wasn't working and wasn't burning down cane fields and all that stuff. I'm not saying that. You feel me? I didn't say we wasn't doing anything. Of course we was doing things. You feel me? But you talking about a very powerful entity that had us by the balls. You feel me? And even now, right now, they have through neo-colonization, they have Africans by the balls. So a lot of African countries are are associating with Russia to help them. Listen, I don't have nothing against white people. I have things against the white people that offends us. Western Europeans, those are my enemies. Eastern Europeans are not my enemies. People like Russia, these people are not. These people like China. These people didn't colonize us.
I don't make an exception.
I'm dealing with. Hold on. I'm dealing with these people that touch us and our people. You feel me? So when it comes to if a white people wanna if white people over there in Russia is helping, I will give them their props. You feel me? I would say if Russia help us, I will say Russian help us. I ain't borderline like I'm not going. No, I'm not that biased. You feel me? But I still have offense against white people. But when I say white people, I mean Western Europeans. You feel me? That's who I mean. And if I was strong enough, if I was strong enough, I would only oppose Western Europeans. I wouldn't go up against innocent white people that never came to us. You feel me? I would go against the ones that's guilty. And then this other guy.
Europeans
Hold
also
on.
took advantage of colonization, and they
Hold on,
thrived
hold on, hold
because
on.
of the colonization. So at the
And
end,
hold on,
Eastern
hold on, man.
European and Western
Hold on,
Europeans
man.
said the same shit. Sorry.
I wasn't done, man. I wasn't done. Hold on, man. I know
Yeah, but
you
like I
said,
said,
yeah, you also said that Libya and South Africa 1920. South Africa, that's not black South Africa. You're talking about white South Africa. That don't count. And Libya don't count. That's occupied land. So these places, these things don't count. Go get your history straight, bro, and chill.
Oh no, we're not gonna do that because I'm. If you want to get your history straight, you ain't gonna come around and try to tell me what I stated. What I stated was that the process of independence kicked off here in the Western Hemisphere, influenced and generated the conditions and the material conditions to then eventually have the issues of Africa and Asia evolve to what is today in modern day era. When I said that the two first countries in Africa became independent were Libya and South Africa, that's a factual sense. That the issues of South Africa and the issues of Libya, of racism and the impacts of colonization, that's another different point which I can recognize and then have conversation over. But then you decided to implement your the prejudice that you were having to what I was saying. I never indicated that it was um, that that the problems did not exist. I only indicated that the independence of Africa, the only first two countries that did so were Liberia and South Africa, and that afterwards Second World War, that's when we saw it kicked out. But why was independence such a uh, push thing? Because of what had happened in the century before. So Latin America showed the world, as well as North, Central, South, and Caribbean, showed the world that Europe could be defeated and that Europe could be broken, and everything that happened after that, the Napoleonic era, the change of the century, World War One, World War Two, was clearly showing the destabilization of Europe and the monarchies because of what happened by losing the colonies here. So, are you now going to tell me that I should review my history, or is this sufficient? At
No,
least
we're
a
not going to
basis
argue.
analysis.
No, we're not going to argue. Can I have my 2 minutes?
yeah, sorry, Jose, go ahead.
I agree with Bakari. It's going to stay, and in the comments I gave the example of Orania, those mofo's in South Africa. Speaking of South Africa independence, the Orania, the white state or whatever it is, white city, white state. They yeah, they marketing themselves like, yeah, we made fertile land, and we turned desert into fertile land, etc. But without financing from the United States, that wouldn't happen, right? The United States is buying their wine and their oranges, so they can they have an income, right? So the same will happen with these motherfuckers. And another thing about Russia, no, 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 please, no. Russia, they are not friends. They are trading partners. They have interests, and we share those interests. And the interest is anti-imperialism. So, okay, yes, I can live with them in on this planet, but they're no friends. They are no friends, and the reason that I believe when I stand side to side with I Can Fire on Russian is the same as what I Can Fire says about the world wars. So this war in Ukraine is drawing so much money and attention away from us. And yes, we should grab that chance. Our time is now again. Thank you.
We haven't heard from Black Steve from Real Black Gentleman, Buana in a while, Sister Alma. So if any one of you want to add a last thought here, now's the time.
I mean, I guess just, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's shoot the breeze, so you know what I'm saying? The breeze done picked up, right? But like, I'm just saying, like, I think that when you focus on the distinctions, you got to use a slider, dog. You got to use a slider. It's all white people. Then you kind of like divide into two groups and divide into three. And maybe those 2 and 3 aren't congruent, because if you divide something into 2, it's hard to divide. It's hard to fit that into 3 unless 2 is a part of 1. But sometimes, you know, 3 and 2 blend. But you just, it's how people is. It's culture and religion. That's how you have your pivots. I see pivots in people. So yeah, it's like, look, as far as like this, maybe I'm taking it a bit too lightly because it is kind of funded. But even a lot of things funded real big, even if it's funded real big, okay, I'll say 25 years though. That's, I'm dead 25. I mean, I don't think that, I suppose that I gotta be, when you hear the wolf calls, you can't be scared. You know what I'm saying? When you hear the wolf howling, you can't be scared. You be scared. They're gonna howl. I'm hurt. You know, and it's just like, I keep it pushing, I keep it moving, I just assess it, add it into everything else that I'm concerned about. Okay, it's 2 places. Okay, in reality, it might be like 7. Okay, 7. Okay, where they at? Can you find the axis of where they is? If they're gonna try to use that as like some kind of like, you know, hardened line on some shit. Okay, that's information. Okay, other than that, they ain't even built the town yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, motherfuckers give money, motherfuckers can take money away. So like, I'm not scared. I ain't scared. You know what I'm saying? I see that shit. I ain't scared. That's all I got to say.
All right.
Yeah. What I gotta say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah. While I would agree with Brother Bakari, because I want to mess with Brother Bakari right now. While I would agree with Brother Bakari in terms of self-defense and practicing your Second Amendment rights, I would also add to what Brother Bakari said that find a good food source. There are a lot of black places that farms right now that's growing good food and good vegetables. Find a great food source. Study up on the human body and sickness and how to heal yourself. Develop a skill or trade in terms, or connect with people who actually build things, structures, foundations, and things like that. These are necessary. If you bring these kinds of people together, you create a level of community. Self-defense is important, but what is good too as well is other things like food, building, with older people and things like that. You know, try to see if you could find alternative ways and means and methods of ensuring their health, because they're cutting out healthcare as well. This is another thing that the American government seems to be trying to do. So see if you could hook up with a community that focuses on alternative medicine and how to heal the body, because we have a lot of sick people within our community. Our collective response is good, because not all of us are going to be soldiers. Not in terms of carrying, having, practicing, getting the gun and doing those kinds of things. Because I believe in self-defense, but you could also be a soldier in aspects of those other things that I would have mentioned. So I would just add to what Brother Bakari was saying, even though, you know, Brother Bakari thinks that everything could be solved with an AK-47. But I'll just leave it there.
You know, that's the last topic for tonight. What I like to do before people start leaving the panel, in a flash, is I like to get your shout outs for this week. Something positive that happened to you, or something you saw that happened in the African world. What are your shout outs this week? Chat, join in with your shout outs as well. Let me start with Brother Bakari. Brother Bakari, what's your shout out this week?
I'm going to shout out those students at those HBCU campuses that stood up to Blexit or whatever the hell their name is by basically ignoring them. They couldn't get no videos to go viral. I want to give a shout out. You know what? And we on the panel with this guy all the time. I want to give a shout out to Black Steel. I want to give a shout to real educators, right? Because Rwanda just said something. All the soldiers ain't gonna be out there with the guns and so on and so forth. An educator, somebody who taking their time trying to teach our youth, is just as much of a soldier as the person who out there with the gun on the front line. And we supposed to make sure our educators are taken care of. So with that being said, I want to give a shout out to Black Steel because I know that's a hell of a job he got. I ain't gonna lie, man, because I might have been swung on some of them. But
I got stories, man. I got stories.
But and that's about the size. So yes, Bawana is right. All the soldiers ain't gonna be out there that way. So our educators, our true, real educators who want to educate our children and liberate our children's mind, they are true soldiers, and they are showing true resistance to this system. And we are supposed to make sure our educators are okay. That's what I
Brother
have.
Bakari,
And once again, thank you,
you always give me a
Koku.
shout out for giving
Shout
me
out
that
to you
idea.
for hosting this. What's this say, Bawana?
You always give me a shout out for giving you that idea just now to
Yeah, I
acknowledge.
just said that. Yeah, I said Bawana. Yeah, when he
No,
said
you
that.
didn't.
Yeah.
No, I want to shout out like how you give.
Okay. My bad.
Yeah, I want
My
to shout
bad.
out.
So I'm gonna give a shout out to Bawana, my Bahamian brethren, for giving me the idea, to give Black Steel that, and all our real educators a true shout out. And to my other Bahamian brethren, Koku, for hosting and always doing a great job on Saturday night with Shoot the Breeze. He had to put up with a lot of ish, and now sometimes it's my ish he putting up with. Yeah, but on that now, I yield the mic.
I appreciate that, brother. Bakari, me from Black Steel. Black Steel, what do you like to shout out this week?
Shout out to what was that girl's name? Rhoda, the girl who said she got hit by a brick and she lied. So
Rhoda
shout out to
Harper.
her, dumbass. She got 90 days in jail. She got to pay back for $42,000 she got from GoFundMe. She got a 10-year social media ban, which is glorious, right? So we have to be real. We have to be honest. A lot of black people, a lot of black men have spent decades, have lost their lives behind lies, right? And it's very easy to lie, especially on a black man, because of the racism and the negative stereotypes about black people. So this, if you're those who don't know, this woman says she got hit in the face with a brick by some dude she didn't want to give her number to. And it was all a lie. There was no brick. There was no dude. She made it up because she's a scammer. And she's had several situations where she's made up lies and was able to get on GoFundMe and scam and get people's money. So this time, she couldn't scam no more. She was caught. She had to pay restitution. And we'll see if she can stick to that social media ban. But it's good for once somebody wasn't able to get away with lying on a black man and getting him incarcerated for years. Because what would have happened if the police would have just grabbed some poor black person, mind their own business? She could have lied and say he fit the description. Next, his brother lose 10, 15 years of his life. Then come to find out it was all a lie. And she's got away with the money. So this is something that I was happy to see, that she faced consequences. Maybe she'll rethink her actions. Probably not, but at least at least there is some consequence to that. So that's my shout out. Fuck her life. And I love the show. Everybody had a good time tonight. I always enjoy talking to everybody. Thank you again for the shout out there, Buana. Because man, listen. And it's not even the black kids. It's white. This year, these white kids on some other stuff this year. But anyways, have a good evening.
Yeah, thanks for coming through. Black Steel as always. Shout out to you for giving that shout out. I posted about that on the Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord yet, just click the link in the description. But I didn't bring it as a topic on Shoot the Breeze. Well, I think for obvious reasons, for how the last few weeks have gone and people's criticism. But I noticed that the people, the dudes who was talking loud, and some people here in the chat too, who was caping for this Rhoda, when that story was, in the words of Dave Chappelle, clearly a lie. Those people are very quiet these last couple of days. Very, very quiet these last couple. Because you know why? It doesn't fit their paradigm. And y'all could think about it. It's the same paradigm that Umar Johnson has. Doesn't fit the paradigm, so they ain't saying nothing. They're not apologizing for being wrong. But I digress. Real Black
Hey, I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize for being wrong because I damn sure believe that woman. So I apologize for being wrong. You ain't got to try to throw no shots at me in secret, Koku. You can just say my name.
No, to be honest,
I know. I'm just
I didn't
clowning.
remember. I didn't remember if you were on that panel.
Well, no, I don't know if I was on that panel, but I know I did believe that woman. So I don't know if I was on that panel or not. But I was wrong. I've been realized I was wrong. So you're right. The hell, I'm like Black Steel. The hell with her. I just wanted to tell you that I was wrong. I was wrong.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think we had that call. I think it was before you start coming on the show. So, but yeah, a lot of these people, Conscious Lee and all these guys, real quiet. Anyway, did I get RBG? Did I get Real Black Gentleman?
No. I'll be quick. I'm gonna give a shout out to New Orleans hip hop. I saw the Versus. I don't know if you guys know what the Versus is. It's basically a friendly competition between two Black American artists. And they had No Limit and Cash Money out of New Orleans. I just want to give a shout out to Black music, the roast tradition, you know what I'm saying, the battle tradition, the competitiveness of the lyricism, which I think is one of the greatest things that Black people actually do in a way, even though it's just wordplay. I mean, we are wicked with it. No one can do it like us. No one. They're gonna try to make machines to do it better than us. Then they're gonna still fail. They're not gonna be able to make the beat like us. They can try. They're gonna fail. So I just want to give a shout out to the Black music. You know what I'm saying? This one. You know what I'm saying?
That's a real good shout out. I appreciate that, RBG. That's a real good shout out. I know Ditso said he had to leave early. I don't know if he's still here or not. If he is, what's your shout out for this week?
Yeah, I'm here. Well, first, shout out to you as always for giving the spaces to have this type of conversations, and a shout out to Jamaica who survived hardly, but survived Melissa. I was there a day after it happened. I was assisting on with Jamaican authorities and as well as Jamaican communities to help provide assistance in what we could. It was a group of 7 of us, first responders of Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia. But what I was mostly impressed is the fact that Jamaicans are standing tall and proud, even if it was, I mean, everything I saw there, especially on the West Coast, which is an area I went through, was utter and complete destruction. Melissa pretty much destroyed everything. And yet, Jamaicans are there, are standing, and will stand with them, as well as any other community that suffers that type of natural tragic event in that sense. And regarding Rhoda Osman, well, a shout out to Due Process. And even if I think that in the same way that we are upholding high standards for Black and African people and African descendants of slavery, both men and women. Rhoda showed to us that she fell into the white woman tears trap for money. Well, now she's gotta pay him back. Everything has consequences, but at the same time, we cannot use this as an example to standardize when um, real events happen. This is why it's always important that in doubt, we must always provide a certain venue for the victims or the alleged victims to take this to the courts. And if eventually, like in the case of Rhoda Hausman, happens, that it wasn't a victim but a liar, let them pay the consequences. But let us not have the just pay for the sinners, and that will be all.
Appreciate that. So let me hear from Jose next. Jose, what would you like to shout out this week?
Well, it may sound strange because there was some in this episode, but I want to shout out to everybody in this panel, especially you, of course, for creating this opportunity. But why a shout out for this show? The fire, everybody was in it, like, yeah, you know. But let us try to just throw the data into the basket, right? We have a basket here, and it's called Shoot the Breeze, and we throw our data into the basket, right? And not in particularly to I can add to the basket, and I don't need to take out of the basket, right? My brother or my sister put something in the basket, I don't need to take it out, right? So let's not when gets hot, we get emotional, and let's try to watch ourselves, and in service of what Koku initiated, right? So let's not get too personal and too emotional. We're here together, right? We're here for each other. I'm here to serve you from the Cape Verdean 54 years in the Netherlands, in the multicultural Netherlands, and I got some info. Is anybody curious? Or I don't need to be pushed into the Netherlands. I'm here with Black people. So let's try to keep the stuff in the basket. And one example I'll give an example. The First World War started with the murder of this prince or whatever. That's not completely true. So I threw in the comments. I could also uh, said it in the panel, but I was like, no, that was not the moment to go. Maybe at that moment, someone could take it as going against him. So I put it in the comment. But it's also a piece of data that I put in the Shoot the Breeze basket. And Shoot the Breeze is online, so the whole world can reach it, right? And the whole world is watching us when we are together here in this show. People are watching us. Please be conscious that the whole world is watching us. Okay, the views at this point is what the views are in this point, but potentially the whole world is watching us. And we get together and we argue and we get personal. Please try to avoid it. So shout out to Kofi. I don't know either everybody's name. Shout out to everybody in the panel, and of course Cool.
Yeah, that was a really good. That was a really good shout out as well, man. Shout out to Joe. Say, yeah, when it comes to these conversations, man, the petty kind of like talking over each other and interrupting, and also too, I gotta say it, the filibustering, man, the long remarks. You got to be self aware, is what I'll say. Be self aware that maybe I should cut this down, or maybe I shouldn't talk over someone else. You know what I mean? Maybe we've been talking about this one topic for an hour and a half, going on 2 hours. Maybe we should, maybe the conversation needs a refresh. Let's move to another topic. You know what I'm saying? That's, I mean, and I try to control it. Sometimes I allow the conversation, because even though it might be off course, it's a good convo. So I allow it for a little bit. But sometimes we got to recognize that we're on a topic. Let's get back to the topic. Let's not be too, be too extra. But thank you for that shout out, Joe said. Last but not least, Bonnie, you've heard everyone else's shout out, including mine, I guess. And the chat. What say you? Why we can't hear you if you're talking?
How about now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, I'll do it this way. So Real Black Gentleman mentioned the rap battle between No Limit and Cash Money. Mia X back in the day, she was one of my favorite artists. So, shout out to hip hop battles and the culture of Black America. I think that sometimes is overlooked. It's a beautiful culture. The riffing and the running the dozens. We have the dozens in the Bahamas too, by the way. But I appreciate the culture. The culture is a beautiful culture. And don't let no one tell you all different, And just because, you recognize the beauty is something that doesn't take away from my culture. It doesn't take away from our style and whatever. Every Black man is a star. Every Black man is a star. So shout out to the Black American brothers and sisters who have their own style and have their own thing and do their own thing and celebrate it. So I agree with Real Black Gentleman in his statements. The second thing I wanted to say is shout out to Brother Bakari. Brother Bakari said something that you don't hear often on the show. Brother Bakari said, "My bad, I was wrong. I'm sorry." And as Black men, we must be able to be forceful and assured and all these other things, but we also have to recognize that we are not always perfect. We could always reflect and correct the things that we feel that we get wrong. And we ain't never too big to say I'm sorry. That takes a real mind to do those kinds of things. So I respect him big time for that. And I respect all my brothers. Shout out to Sonia Massey. I think that she was unalived by that police officer just because she say, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. The man shot her in the head, in the face. So she got some level of justice. In terms of that guy, that savage going to prison. I would really rather something else happening to him, but we get where we could get. So for right now, shout out to the memory of Sonia Massey. And shout out to Justice. She deserves to have that. So shout out to her. Shout out to my Jamaican massive, another group of people, Black folks who have a beautiful culture, and sometimes that's ignored and not respected. So shout out to my Jamaican massive for going through what they're going through right now. I've been through several Category 4 hurricanes, and I know what that's like. So hold your head up, stand tall, do what you can to make your situation better and alleviate your situation. So shout out to Jamaica, my Jamaican massive. And to end it off, shout out to all the brothers and sisters on the panel who came and contributed. Shirley, I'm only kidding with you, man. I'm kidding with you. But shout out to all the brothers and sisters who made great contributions. Sometimes our conversations could be contentious, but at least we could get over it. But as I would second Koku thoughts, with the brothers sometimes, be mindful, because sometimes you want to get to other discussions and we can't get bogged down with one discussion for an hour and 2 hours and 3 hours. Because I would really, because I spend time looking up prompts to put up. You know, sometimes they want to see these things. So be mindful of the time. You could express things and you don't have to take an hour to do it. You know, so you could express and don't cut each other off. The brothers them did a good job of it for the most part at the beginning, but that fell apart. Remember, all of us are brothers in the room. You know, don't take it personal. You know, don't take it like you're being attacked. The brothers who are attacking other people, you gotta stop that. You gotta stop that. We are not your enemy. You know, we come up here every Saturday night and we spend 3 hours together. That's enough to say something. We actively engage in and want to talk to one another. So we are not enemies with one another. So we shouldn't engage in these back and forth and contentious and recriminations and pointing the finger and name calling. I think that we're bigger than that as black men, and we could do better. We could do better. So, you know, try with practice impulse control from time to time. Yeah, I know it on the tip of your tongue, and you want to cuss someone out, but hold that. You know, for the betterment of the show, and for the people who actively listen and they want to hear a good discussion and they want to hear some good information that we have. So, you know, stole off your little temperamental emotions for the betterment of the listeners. Always consider the listeners. Okay? But I'll leave it there. You know, Koku, you know, I appreciate you, brother. Shout out to the panel, and I'll just leave it there, bro.
I appreciate all of you who participated tonight on the panel. Let's be better going forward, though. Shout out to all of you on the panel. Shout out to all of you in the chat as well. And all of you who will be listening to the playback. Make sure to join the Discord if you haven't already. Like I said, link is in the description. We will be back next week. Until then, you guys be good, man. Stay African. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine. Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.